Jacqueline Hotard. We do have a quorum. Legal is not present.
Okay, could we turn off all electronic devices, please?
I know, I'm texting them right now. You can go.
Okay, we have a bid opening report, Ms. Jean Stewart.
Yeah, public comment.
If anybody have any comments they want to make on any item on the agenda tonight,
Finance.
on finance agenda, please come forward.
Okay.
Public
Public comment closed.
comments closed.
Good evening, Council. Woodland Drive Bridge Rehabilitation bid was open today. There were 2 bids. Bucktown Contractors and Company from Kenner, Louisiana, $170,000. Hard Rock Construction LLC from Harvey, Louisiana, $233,435. Administration recommends that these bids be taken under advisement.
Okay. It's, first by Mr. Snyder, second by Mr. Mardare. Any comments, discussion? Use your lights.
Thank you.
Okay, can you turn off Jacqueline's light, Tom? Thank you so much. That, wait, you gotta put the light, Mr. Myers' light back on. That carries 8 in favor with 2 absent.
Okay, the next item we have is Ms. Natalie Rowbottom. That item is tabled. Are we gonna remove it from the table?
It's up to y'all.
Gotta get a motion.
That does move on.
Okay, that dies. We're gonna move on to the next item is Natalie Rowbottom. Authorization to advertise requests for proposals for grant management services. That motion dies. The next item we have is Ms. Alex Carter. Authorization to enter into an employment contract with court enforcement with the following: Louis Grady and Patricia Belshaw. Okay, so we're gonna table this one.
I think Mr. Perilou spoke with Ms. Carter and is fine with this action. These contracts are coming up for renewal and expiration.
Okay, we're gonna move on. The next item is Ms. Jean Stewart and Blake Fogelman. Authorization to advertise for bids for membrane filters for the reverse osmosis unit.
This is an annual bid and administration recommends approval.
Okay, motion from Mr. Mardeh, second by Mr. Becknell. Any questions? Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 2 absent.
Okay, the next item we have is Ms. Jean Stewart and Mr. Daron Cooper. Authorization to advertise for bids for a bucket truck.
One of the 2 bucket trucks in streetlights is in need of replacement. Funds for the purchase are budgeted and administration recommends approval.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Mardare. Second by Mike.
Mr. Wright.
Mr. Wright. Any questions?
Yes, I got some.
Mr. Snyder?
It says bucket truck and street lights. I'm sorry. It says bucket trucks and street lights. Do we have bucket trucks in any other department? Like the electrical department? I know that's street lights, but
I know we have some older equipment that's utilized in utilities. I'm not sure. I know it's some aged equipment, but it's not, suitable for what we need to do.
bucket trucks?
Correct.
Did we buy bucket trucks 2 years ago?
2015, I believe it was. We purchased a bucket truck. We have 2 streetlight technicians in my department, and the truck that we're looking to replace is a 2007, and it's really starting to show its age, and it needs to be replaced.
Why it need to be replaced?
Well, it's starting to give us a lot of mechanical problems. We're starting to see some wear and tear in the boom area on the truck, which goes up in the air, which is causing some safety concerns for the operators.
Okay, I understand that. Safety is phrased all the time, but I mean, this is 2007. How much mileage they got on this thing?
I'm not sure how many miles they have exactly on the vehicle.
In the government, that's in trouble right now with money. It's hard for me to support that because I know that we got trucks, boom trucks, whether they're not in the street lights or wherever they are, or just electrical people, and I don't see us getting another truck right now. I mean, things like that can be repaired. We got a mechanic shop over there that can work with these trucks. Cause we talking about what, maybe another $100,000 truck, something like that.
It's like $128,000, $130,000.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm just not into spending that kind of money for a boom truck right now, just to have another one, because the other one getting kind of old, and the other one's in good shape. But 2007.
Also, there's a safety measure also too with the height of the lights we're working on right now, particularly on the on and off ramps area in the interstate area in the Long Bell Tear. When you get to a certain height, you have to have outriggers. And that particular truck we're looking to replace it's not equipped with that safety feature. That's to stop the truck from tilting over when they get to a certain height to work on those street lights.
Let me tell you something. I get so upset sometimes with things like this happen. That's the exact thing I told you when we bought this other truck. Is it long enough to reach the towards the light, like at the parking place?
It can reach those heights, but it's just a matter of.
But now
it's a safety matter. The old one, correct. The 07 is not equipped with outriggers.
Well, I can understand. The new one is?
The new one is.
I'm talking about the one that we have now.
Yes, it is.
Well, then why do we need another one just for that reason?
Because we have 2 operators who do streetlights, and each operator has their own particular truck.
Well, I just think we need to be a little bit more thrifty, and we're spending the public money. Do we really need this truck right now? Can we repair this truck for $3,000-$4,000 and make it just like a brand new truck? 2007 isn't very old for a truck that. It's not like our cars run up to New Orleans every day. This thing just run through the parish here, And I just don't. I'm not gonna support this. I'm sorry. We strapped for money right now. Do the electrical department have trucks?
I'm sorry, Mr.
The electrical department got trucks too, or these trucks everybody use them?
No, this is strictly for street lights.
Street lights. And the electrical department got what, 2 or 3 trucks?
No, it's the same
No,
truck.
it's the same truck.
people.
That's what I'm asking.
It's the same people.
Same people. Street lights and electrical department.
Okay, thank you. That's all the question I had. All right, yes.
Back now?
Yes, Daron,
Yes, sir.
I'm concerned with safety. That's very important, but perhaps you could provide a report on what the expense has been running per year for repairs, to take that into consideration. Like you said, the truck we've been repairing it a lot lately. Do you have like a little report?
I can pull some records on that.
Just, because we weigh our options out with that too,
Correct.
because I'm all about safety too,
Right.
I'm not saying I'm against this, but just maybe that would help,
And I mean, safety is the first and foremost
Oh, of
aspect of it. I
course,
mean,
of
when you have
course.
an operator going 40 feet in the air,
Right. That's
you
my
wanna,
biggest concern too.
Correct.
And I was just saying, just to see what it was running like expenditures, expenses wise during a year or something.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Remedy?
Yeah, truck is 11 years old. We got these people up in the air. They're servicing lights. We're talking about electricity. There's anything that can happen. I want them stable in that truck when they're trying to replace lights. And lights prevent crimes in neighborhoods, so I don't see any problem with this. We've thrown away money on less useful things than this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Made?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. The truck that we're talking about that we having a problem, it's a 2007,
Yes, it is.
and it's not equipped with those
Outriggers.
you know, that stabilize the truck.
Correct.
Okay, now when we purchased, well, that was before we was councilman. When we purchased that truck back, you may not be able to answer that question.
I wasn't here when that was purchased either, so I can't.
Why, at the time when we purchased those trucks, I'm pretty sure those outriggers been in existence.
Correct.
That we didn't purchase a truck with that during that time, which is wise to do. Okay, and any equipment that we purchase moving forward, we should always look into the fact what's possible.
Needed, right? What's
Right,
required.
what's the new thing that can be used, I mean, for safety, so we don't be buying equipment that
we can't utilize.
you can't utilize as far as safety goes. Now, the problem that we having with this truck, okay, we can't put outriggers on that, I know that. The problem that we having as far as staying up, the boom release come down or something like that?
Yeah, we just spent some money on the truck. With the boom, it's a lot of problems we having with the hydraulics. Also, we having a problem with the exhaust leak somewhere in the inside of the truck.
Well,
it's been to Ford several times, and they
Yeah.
still haven't been able to locate the source of it.
Well, my thing is the bill is approaching $100,000. You might as well buy a new one. Okay, that's what I'm saying. They're going to have the safety feature, because if you spend $50,000 or $60,000 on it, you're still not going to have the safety features.
Right.
Okay, so you know, when you look at it like that, and I've always been a person, you understand, the department need more equipment, not just the electrical department, but drainage and everything like that, you know. So anything that can upgrade and bring more equipment in, you know, I'm for that. And safety.
Thank you.
Ms. Robotham?
Yes, just for informational purposes, we asked some of these same questions when they asked for funding in the budget. This is one of the items that we did vet and check and agreed that it was necessary, which is why it was placed in the budget for 2018, which was approved. Additionally, in 2007, we didn't have the lights on the ramp. And I think we had an agreement with Entergy where they were changing some of the higher. So a couple of reasons. One, we didn't always have the money to purchase everything we wanted and needed at the time. And two, we didn't have and weren't responsible for those lights because we didn't put those up until sometimes after 2010. But once through a partnership with the state, once they were installed, maintenance was turned over to us. And so now we're doing some things that are in addition to what we were previously doing. Not an excuse, that's just the facts why possibly the 2007 truck wasn't equipped with these, I guess with the option to have additional features. But at this point, you know, in order to keep up with what we're doing, it doesn't make sense to have two electricians and they both have to work out of the same bucket truck. We have two. One's in need of replacement. I shared with Mr. Becknell, we were hesitant to put too much focus on safety in the discussion. However, the purpose for replacement of the truck is for the safety of our employees.
Mr. Snyder?
Thank you for that. But you see, if we'd used wisdom, when we bought this truck, we wouldn't have to be buying a truck now for that reason. The state didn't give us the street back here, now we need the truck for the lights. When I brought this up 2-3 years ago, get a large enough truck where we can reach our lights at our baseball field. And we got, 5 baseball fields that we can use lights for? Well, we get LP&L to do that. So if we had bought this truck back then, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. But now the state say to give us the lights back there. Now we need the lights, another truck to put the lights up. Thank you.
Sure. Any more questions? Use your lights.
That carries 7 in favor, 1 absent, and 1 against. No, yes.
Okay. Next item we have is Blake Fogelman. Authorization to award the bid for the Edgard Water Treatment Plant Clarify Project to the Volute Incorporated.
Thank you, Chairman. The apparent low bidder, Industrial Mechanical Contractors, Inc., was determined to be non-responsive. Therefore, Volute, Inc. of Houma, Louisiana, submitted the second lowest responsive and responsible bid in the amount of $443,600. This project is funded through Louisiana Community Development Block Grant in the amount of $438,190 and the 2015 bond issue. The bid specs and all bids were reviewed by the parish engineer, the project engineer, and the director of utilities, and administration recommends approval.
Okay, we heard from administration. Any discussion? Mr. Becknell? Motion, Mr. Becknell. Second, Ms. Remedy.
Question.
Mr. Wright?
Thank you. Blake, why were they non-responsive?
I think it was one of the bid package requirements forms to be signed and sealed, and I think that wasn't done. And if you need any further, I'd have to defer to Ms. Jean from a purchasing standpoint.
Just wanted for the record. Thank you.
You got it.
Mr. Snyder?
Is this amount the same amount we talked about last meeting?
Yes, sir. Or yesterday?
Last meeting, I think, but some money we needed to take out of the money for the pond back there. Is this the same project? Because
No.
when I brought that up, we talked about this, and the money we need, the funds we needed to completely pay for this system. We said we had the money in our $6 million fund we had to do our pond in reserve. But the money was coming out of that. Is it the same project?
No, sir. This is a water project. This is on the clarifier. This is the Edgard water treatment plant.
Water treatment thing is not.
Yes,
it's not coming out of that money then.
No, sir. This is the 2015 bond that's allocated directly to water, and it's a minimal amount because we have to fund it through there, and then we're going to get reimbursed from the grant almost 100%. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not very much in it.
I had a question, Mr. Blake. Yeah. What would be the cost of a new clarifier? We decided to put another clarifier on the West Bank.
I think originally when they did it, when the decision was made, it was prior to me coming with the parish, but I think it was close to 800,000 was the number that I heard. And I think the council and the parish administration decided to spend the 1 point something to get the backup under the Mississippi River, and then come back and rehab this, and that's what this project is, to actually get this one back up and give it its useful life back.
So if at some point, if we decide to add another clarifier to the West Bank plant, do we have room to do that?
A footprint as far as property wise, we do, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussions? Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay, Blake Fogelman, authorization to award the bid for the 2018 submergible sewer pumps to Gulf States Engineering Company Incorporated.
Thank you, Chairman. Gulf States Engineering Company Incorporated of Covington, Louisiana submitted the lowest responsive and responsible bid for these items as reviewed by the parish engineer and the director of utilities. This is an annual bid, and the orders will be placed on an as-needed basis. Funding is available through the utilities and wastewater departments, and administration recommends approval.
Okay, we heard from the administration. Any comments? Get a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Snyder? Second, Mr. Perilou. Any discussion? Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item we have is Mr. Jerry Jones, authorization to renew the contract with Xavier University to serve as the physical agent for the Louisiana Small Business Development Center.
Good evening, Council. The contract is for technical assistance through the Business Training Center and includes workshops, seminars, Kaufman Fast Track 10-week sessions, and other entrepreneurial training courses in connection with the Small and Emerging Business Development Program. The renewal is for 1 year at a cost not to exceed $162,564. The program is partially funded through economic development and Louisiana Economic Development. The renewal document was reviewed by legal counsel and determined to be legally sufficient. Administration recommends approval.
Okay, we heard from administration. Any comments? Motion, Mr. Ramaday. Second by Mr. Snyder. Use your lights. Oh, any questions?
I'm good. I'm good. I think I understand this.
Use your lights.
Can you turn off that light? Or it's not really him that's supposed to
Thank
come
you.
out of there. So, That carries 7 in favor with 2 absent.
Okay, the next item we have is Mr. Travis Perlew. Authorization to amend emergency response management and recovery services contract with Crowder Gulf LLC Disaster Recovery and Debris Management.
The amendment reflects a price increase on certain items for the first time in 5 years as per the attachment in your booklet. The amendment documents were sent to legal counsel for review and administration recommends approval.
Okay, we heard from administration. Any questions? Mr. Perlew?
Mr. Stewart, this contract on Mr. Perlew, it's just for activated only as needed, right?
Right.
Okay.
And this is actually, I spoke to the DA's office. This is going to be a twofold because we were trying to get an amendment and a renewal.
Right.
So after you approve this amendment, I'm going to have to ask you to amend the agreement to add a renewal to this contract also, because he said I couldn't do it all in one sweep. I had to do an amendment first, then the renewal. Okay.
So can we get a motion for the amendment? Mr. Ramaday, second by Mr. Becknell.
You did a second?
Any questions? You got a second?
No, I don't have a question.
No questions? Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent. Now what do you need, Nancy?
And this is, I want you to add to the agenda to renew it for an additional year,
Okay, so we're gonna first.
as advised by the DA's office.
Thank you. Okay. First is the motion
Okay, we got a motion to suspend the rules.
to add.
The renewal,
Add another
to add the
year
renewal.
extension to the contract.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so first we need a vote on that. That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent. And then now.
Okay, this renewal adds 1 year to the existing standby contract, which is authorized when a notice to proceed is issued for a natural or man-made disaster. The renewal document was sent to legal counsel for review, and administration recommends approval.
Okay, we heard from administration for the renewal. Can I get a motion? Mr. Perlew, Mr. Malik, Ms. Robottom?
Excuse me, there seems to be some confusion, and there is a little, and I don't want to leave the audience in that manner. The current contract with Crowder Gulf allowed for amendments to pricing. It was very specific in the document based on current rates, and it also allowed for a renewal. We thought initially we could do both in the same motion, but were recently advised that we needed to have you all accept the amended rates in accordance with the current document, and then to utilize a separate motion to extend it for the additional year in accordance with the contract. So what you're doing was what we were attempting to do in one item. However, it was recommended that we divide them. So it seemed like it kind of got off and everybody wasn't clear on what was happening. But there are 2 actions. One, to amend the rates because they haven't been amended since we entered into the contract, and there's a clause in it that allows for that. And 2, to extend the current agreement for an additional year, especially going into hurricane season.
Good, thank you. That was sent to us. I think the district attorney did send that explanation to us.
Right.
Thank you, Ms. Robottom. Okay, use your lights on the renewal.
Thank you.
8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay, the next item we have is Daron Cooper and Mara Para. Authorization to execute a change order number 2 with Subterranean Construction LLC for the Reserve Drainage Project Phase 3.
This change order includes final quantity adjustments and adds 97 calendar days to the contract time with no charge and cost. The change order was reviewed by the project engineer and the capital projects administrator, and administration recommends approval.
Okay, we heard from administration. Get a motion, Mr. Mardaz. Second by Mr. Snyder. Any questions? Mr. Snyder?
I got questions. I'm sorry. I'm volunteering for things I shouldn't be volunteering for. This change order, that's for the 90 days?
97
Which
days.
project is this? The project in
Phase
Sweet Lorraine
2.
area?
Yes.
And it's gonna cost us any more money?
No.
Why 97 more days?
Well, I'm sure Mr. Mary here with Bugard Horn could give you an explanation of it for the time extension. I'm sorry. Right, 97 days.
Yeah, we added, we extended the project based on Mr.
Right, for the additional work that was requested.
Oh, okay. I don't know who to pass this compliment on, but it looks good back down. I don't know if to pass it on to the contractor or Mr. Madare, you know. I got a compliment yesterday on how nice it looked back there on Sweet Lorraine. I mean on that area back there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder, for that. And I think this project actually has been recognized nationally. Mr. Pierre will present to you all the award that this project received.
Yeah, good.
So, good evening. Excuse me, Mayor Parr with Bugard Horn. We submitted the project for a national award through Stormwater Solutions Magazine, and we were accepted with a number of other projects as a top project for a number of innovative design features that we implemented in this project. And I can provide everybody with a link to it's an online magazine to where you can read about the project, and we took some nice aerial photos, and they did a really nice write-up on it. So, and I'd like to present this award for top project to the parish. Thank you, Ms.
Good.
Thank
We may just send this into the council office. And it actually was in Chicago. The award was, provided to the company on a trip to Chicago. So again, good project. Took a little bit longer. I think it's a good project in the area. We're actually going to be trying to start phase 2 in reserve, and obviously it's a project that needs to be done in a lot of our older areas, and we thank you guys for your patience.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Madare?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, don't leave so fast. I want to thank Mr. O'Brien for accepting that award for me. My district, District 3, we look nice. I went back there today, but we had to make some corrections, some things that we got straight that I think that allowed your company and this parish to win that award. You know, some cosmetic work that we've done, and still have a few we have left to do, but it's a nice award. Okay, and the way we're going to top it off is we're going to fix the street. They're going to look just as nice as the drainage project in that area. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we need a vote. Can you use your lights?
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay, the next item we have is Mr. Daron Cooper and Rick Shred. Authorization to amend the contract with Shred Kirkendale Associates Incorporated for the Reserve Drainage Project Phase 2.
This amendment includes the additional scope of work required for permitting through the CN Railroad at the cost of $92,100. The increase is funded through the Gustav Ike Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. The amended document was sent to legal counsel for review, and administration recommends approval.
Okay, we heard from administration. Get a motion? Ms. Ramade and Mr. Perilou, second. Any questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Snyder?
What are the permits for?
The permit is for the railroad. We have to do a jack and bore underneath the railroad, but the additional funds is to complete the topo survey, the permitting, and the railroad is requiring us to do geotechs around the track area.
And that's going to cost us $92,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any more questions? Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
And just to add to that, this had to be sent on to the granting entity for approval before we could move forward, and they did review the plans and the costs, and they approved the funding, so they're going to be covering this additional cost.
Good, good.
Okay, we have one item we're going to ask to go back to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to offer a motion to reconsider the council's decision to keep agenda items number 7, authorization to enter into an employment contract for code enforcement with the following: Lewis Grady and Patricia Balansaw, on the table.
Can I get a motion?
Second that.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Snyder.
Yeah.
Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay, second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Perlew, second by Mr. Madair. Use your lights.
It's removed from the table. That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay, Ms. Alex Carter, authorization to enter into an employment contract with code enforcement with the following: Lewis Grady and Patricia Belshaw. Mr. Perlew's motion, second by Mr. Wright. Any questions?
Yeah, I just make a comment. Thanks to the council for reconsidering. I'm sorry I was late. I apologize for being late on that at the meeting. But thank you all for reconsidering. I did talk with Ms. Carter on this item. I was satisfied with the information that she gave me, so I am looking to move on with it.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes, I just want to pass this on to the code enforcers and to Ms. Alex, in that when I got that compliment about how nice it look on back with the drainage, they also say how the parish is looking better since we started enforcing some of our laws, like junk cars and trash on the streets, and trying to clean up some of our ditches. That same group did pass that compliment on. So I like to throw that out there, because some of the work that the planning and zoning department been doing is really starting to pay off a little bit.
And we'll be happy to pass that on to them. All of them are at a national planning conference in New Orleans, which is why Ms. Carter's not here today. But I'm sure they'll be glad to hear that.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Any more questions? Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay. Motion.
Motion.
Motion. Use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1
St. John the Baptist Parish regular council meeting, April 24th. Would you please silence all your electronic devices, cell phones? Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Larry Taraparu.
Here.
Kurt Beckner. Julia Remende. Here. Larry Schneider. Lennox Madair.
Here.
Michael Wright.
Here.
Marvin Perlew. Here. Thomas Malik. Here. Jacqueline Hotard. We do have a quorum.
Okay, I will ask Mr. Sarapu to lead us in prayer, Mr. Mallet, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on behalf of the council, I'd like to thank everyone for attending the meeting. I know we have some items on here that have a lot of concern to all the citizens. And we do have 2 minutes per citizen on any item on the agenda. With the large amount of people who may be speaking on any particular items, we're going to hold you exactly till 2 minutes. Before, I used to let it go to maybe 2.5, sometimes 3. But because we have so many people that probably want to speak on the item, it's going to be held to a strict 2 minutes per citizen. Okay, anyone that want to speak on an item may come up. Okay, yeah, and make sure and state your name and everything for the record.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mrs. Geraldine Watkins. I reside at 104 Apricot Street, Laplace, Louisiana. I'm one of the concerned citizens of St. John the Baptist Parish. Chloroprene was originally developed by the U.S. chemical giant DuPont in 1932. The use of chloroprene in products and the billions invested for chloroprene capacity is nothing compared to the few $1 million that DANCA keeps saying they have spent and or to clean up the mess being made by this plant in St. John the Baptist Parish. I say it like this because there are some places that have refused to continue the use of chloroprene in their communities. Do the research. Chloroprene, rubber is the core business and acquisition from DuPont and is expected to largely contribute to the sustainable growth. What about the sustainability within the families of this parish? It is past time that our governing body, you, the parish council, stand with the citizens of this parish and demand the stoppage of all chloroprene use or shut the plant down. Again, do your research. The question is answered through facts provided by EPA, and I'm going to believe facts over whatever is the opposite of what the EPA has said and continue to show in figures that chloroprene is bad here, as it was in other places. Do your research. Thank you.
Any other concerned citizen?
My name is Hugh Lambert of the Lambert firm. I'm an attorney that's been looking into this matter with a number of these concerned citizens and other lawyers. We thought we had 12 minutes. We thought we were on the agenda. We're not. I've got 2 minutes, so I'm going to hurry through what I think I just heard, and I want to echo the truth of it. The things that are irrefutable are that the isoplat, which is basically an irregular circle drawn around the Dinka plant, was developed not by lawyers, but by Dinka and by DuPont. So that circle around the plant that identifies the 0.2 micrograms per cubic meter limit of exposure was done by the defendant in the lawsuits, where we represent thousands of citizens now of this parish. They developed the isoplat. The 0.2 micrograms per cubic meter limit was developed by scientists that work with the EPA, not politicians, but scientists. In 2010, they issued an IRIS report, which is hundreds of pages long, which contains all sorts of data, including animal studies, that identifies what the maximum exposure should be. They actually wanted 0.002 micrograms per cubic meter, but settled on 0.2. Now, we have taken samples, urine samples, of people that live at random inside of the isoplat drawn by DuPont and Dinka. 100% of those people's urine has tested positive for metabolites of chloroprene, and those metabolites come only from the Dinka facility. They're not, as you'll hear probably from others, from butadiene or from cigarette smoke. It's chloroprene only. That's where it comes from. It's not an opinion, it's a scientific fact. So, the point is that the people that live around this plant have this metabolite of chloroprene, which is a breakdown product that comes from the exposure, in their bodies. And they're at increased risks of developing the diseases that come from it, which include cancer, which is a mutagenic.
Excuse me, Mr. Lambert. I got to cut you off.
I've been cut off before.
No, but I gave you the same amount of time I gave Ms. Watkins. You know,
Thank you very much, council members. I really do appreciate. At some point, I would like to know how to get on the agenda so I don't get cut off.
Okay.
Okay. And I hope you get some answers from the director.
I think we will.
I got my stopwatch. I'm ready for you.
Oh, I'm ready. We just make sure we synchronize.
I'm in the start. My name is Garrison. I'm an attorney. I represent members of the community who are fighting for the right for clean air. They live in the vicinity of the Dinka plant. Continuing a theme of Ms. Watkins, Mr. Lambert's themes of truth and science, I'm here to just present some select data from the EPA. As you know, there are various air monitoring stations that were installed and maintained by the EPA at different locations surrounding the plant. We've heard some propaganda where the air is improving, or the filtering systems or scrubbing systems are now making the air sufficiently clean for the community. I don't think that's the case, and I'm just going to point to data, not by me, not by any of my experts. Focusing on the 5th Ward Elementary School, the most recent data we have ends in March 26th, but for that month before, it's taken every 3 days. We have, looking at the 5th Ward Elementary School, 5 of the 10 air samples taken at the 5th Ward Elementary School are above the 0.2 standard. On February 27th, 1.2 micrograms per cubic meter, 6 times the standard. On March 14th, 3.57 micrograms per cubic meter, 17.85 micrograms per cubic meter. At the levee, it was 28.3, 141.5 times the standard. So we have 5 of those 10 at the 5th Ward Elementary School were elevated above 0.2. For the other 5, where the measurements at the 5th Ward Elementary School were below 0.2, they were elevated somewhere else. So it was a matter of wind direction. It's not a matter of the efficiency of the scrubbers. We continue to see a pattern of elevated chloroprene concentrations in the air surrounding the community of the Dinka facility. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the item?
Good evening, council members. My name is Casey Peterson. I'm also a lawyer. I represent some of the citizens here. I'm going to tell you just a few facts, a handful in my short time, about chloroprene and what it does in your body and why it causes cancer. It's a mutagenic compound. That means that when it's in your body, it operates via mutagenic mode of action. In 2001, the metabolite of chloroprene that causes cancer, the actual compound that chloroprene turns into in your bodies, that damages your DNA and causes it to reproduce in such a manner that it forms a tumor, that metabolite was discovered by a DuPont scientist. And if you think Dinka didn't know about it, in 2007 they co-sponsored a study with the same scientist with DuPont that did a study on this exact same metabolite. This metabolite in 2013 was found to turn into another metabolite, abbreviated CLMA3. This is a metabolite, both of these metabolites are specific to chloroprene. It's the only place they come from. They don't come from butadiene. They don't come from isoprene. They don't come from vinyl chloride or anything else. Those were all found. This metabolite, the final metabolite CLMA3, which comes directly from the one that causes cancer, was found in every single urinalysis that we've conducted. It's in the bodies of everybody here. If we took our urine right now, it would be in ours. This compound, 1-chloroethanyl-oxirane, or abbreviated CEO, remember that, because that is what causes cancer. It's in every single one of us right now. And it's not like, well, just at a certain amount it becomes unsafe. There's no safe amount. Every single time one of these molecules interacts in your body, you're rolling the dice. Every one of those is going to damage your RNA and your DNA and has the potential to cause cancer in each and every one of you. Those are facts. I'd be happy to give you the studies if you want to read them. I hope that you hear them from the other people here today, but just in case you didn't, I want to make you aware of them. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience?
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Taylor. I live in Reserve, 389 East 26th Street. I'm a lifelong resident of St. John Parish. Reserve, as a matter of fact. I even predated Dinka. I'm astounded at this, at these numbers, at the all of the stuff that's surrounding this. There is scientific data out that where we don't have to have politics in or bureaucracy. Science is just that. When somebody says 0.2, I mean, that's what that is. That's definable. When they say 0.2, it's changed by, I think, a whole exponent. It changes exponentially when they tell us 0.2 was the findings that our American scientific community came with. The scientific community, not the business or political community. And I just hope that the people of this parish and the people of this state, this country that we're living in, begin to separate the difference between the trickery of profiteers, of people who are in the business of making money and they don't have regard for human life. To put chloroprene in our communities and to bombard that school at sometimes 400 times what is recommended as a safe level is murderous. I don't see the difference in that and in Syria gassing those children that we went to war for. I think our children are just as important as the children of Syria, even though we're in a poor black community. Our children's lives are valued. Mine, I have the chloroprene, the metabolites in my body. Out of the 6, I've got 5 of them in very high numbers. And I don't want my children and grandchildren to suffer this. So I'm begging the people to get the politics out, get the trickery out. DuPont is not being honest with us. They're being dishonest with us. They tried to deny us access to this information. So that makes me not trust them. Why wouldn't they want us to have this information? We have the right by law to have it. But if you are coming in our community to do business, you're obviously making money. It's profitable to you to be here. We would love for you to be here. We need the money. I got children who need jobs. We got taxes. All of that is well and good, but not if it's going to destroy our people. Not if it has the potential. When you say 0.2 microgram, I was dealing with a number that blew my mind. Okay. But it was actually 0.0. It was actually 0.002. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dale. Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on to the agenda items. First on the agenda is the item administration would like to have removed.
Yes, we'll have to reschedule that.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to remove that item. Okay. Next on the agenda is Mr. Tom Malik presentation to Paul Green, 2nd Annual Aviation Awards Day. Awareness Day. What is the award? Awareness.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Green. I'm a 1986 graduate of East St. John, U.S. Navy veteran serving the Persian Gulf War. helicopter crewman. What I am doing May 5th is having an aviation awareness day that we did last year, which was a huge success. We flew over 300 kids. So this year we was kind of invited to do it again, and we have an overwhelming response from all the local businesses. And we were just asking everyone to come out and support us. Everything is going to be free for the kids, and what we're doing is bringing aviation to St. John Parish. We're aviators. I have a son that's flying, so we're trying to just get another vision for our youth to get into a wonderful career. And I thank you guys for your time, for listening to me and inviting me, put me on the agenda. Like I said, it's May 5th, and everything will be free that day. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, any comments?
If you if you didn't go to it last year, you need to come to it this year. If you've never flown an airplane, if you're a minor, you need a parent's permission. It's well worth it. The whole idea that Paul came up with is to bring another industry into the parish, get a good introduction into it, so that there's other jobs that you can do in the area besides working at the plants or the grain elevators, things like that. We've got a fantastic airport with service to Europe now, so it's going to be a good time. Lots of other events will be there besides Paul and his airplanes. But thank you very much, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder.
Yes, Mr. Malik, I did go last year, and I did attend last year, and I'm not a small young kid, but I enjoy flying. It always amazes me, and talking to some of the pilots and things, you can get a kind of in-depth knowledge on as far as trying to understand what goes on with an airplane, because I'd like to talk to pilots. And last year, that thing was so beautiful. So many kids, and they enjoyed themselves, and a lot of parents were out there also. So if you get your child out there, they will enjoy this particular activity, and to get a chance to really get up close to what an airplane looks like. And it was fun, Mr. Green. I'm glad you did it last year, and I'm certainly glad you're doing it again this year. Good luck to you. And I'll be there, Lord spare this life of mine.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, I'll be flying.
Yes, I'd like to thank Mr. Green and the pilots for their persistence. It was a wonderful event. He spends a lot of time with his organization preparing for it. They've reached out to some additional sponsors. Obviously, the parish is assisting, and then so is the airport. And we're glad to do it. It's an opportunity that many of our students and residents would not have an opportunity to participate in, and it's something that we're doing first. So thank you. Continue to be persistent, and we're going to continue to support you.
Okay, thank you. We have a request from administration to move Mr. Chuck Brown up and the concerned citizens. But my whole idea when I put this agenda together was to have the concerned citizen give their presentation to the council first, and then Mr. Chuck Brown would give his information to the council, and that way any concerns or question that we may as a council get from the concerned citizens, we can in turn ask the question to Mr. Brown. That's the reason why I had the concerned citizen before him. Mr. Brown, you understand? So if I move you up, I would like to move both items up and still allow the concerned citizen to speak before Mr. Brown. Because information.
And just for clarification, the request was made because Dr. Brown had another engagement, so he asked to be moved up on the agenda. And I don't think we actually specified whether it was before or after concerned citizens, but there were several other items on here that...
Right, well, I don't mind moving it up. I want to move them up consecutively together because I wanted to, like I say, hear from the concerned citizen, because if they have any question or idea that the council member will pick up from their presentation, we can in turn ask Mr. Brown about it.
Sure.
Okay, so next on the agenda is the concerned citizens, and I think the designated speaker for them is Miss Welma. I don't know her last name. I just know Miss Welma, but she's going to give us information when she get up.
Good evening, and thank you. I have a handout I'll pass around, please.
You have to give us your name first, your whole name.
My name is Welma Supra. I'm here on behalf of Louisiana Environmental Action Network and the concerned citizens of St. John the Baptist Parish. So as soon as everyone gets it, we'll start. So Dinka Performance Elastometers purchased the DuPont Pontchartrain Works neoprene facility in Laplace in November of 2015. DuPont continues to operate the diamine unit, and you'll frequently hear the citizens talk about DuPont and Dinka in the same sentence. So both companies are operating on the physical structure that you used to know as DuPont. So Dinka manufactures chloroprene, and they use that chloroprene to manufacture neoprene. Chloroprene has been released into the air of your community since 1969, or for 49 years. Dinka is the largest releaser of chloroprene in the air in the whole United States. And Dinka is the only source of chloroprene air emissions in St. John the Baptist area. So clearly, anything dealing with chloroprene comes from the Dinka facility. So on the bottom of the cover page, you see EPA's air monitoring data. They monitor at 6 locations, once every 3 days for 24 hours. So we get data once out of 3 days. And you'll see the list of locations, and on the next page you'll see a map that shows you where those locations are. So we look at Chad Baker, which is just north of the 5th Ward School, and it has the highest concentrations of chloroprene in the air. This is all data from 2018. They put on control technologies prior to the beginning of 2018. So this data is based on when they have all the control technologies supposedly operating. And you'll see that the chloroprene concentrations are 163 times the 0.2, and you'll see a number of the citizens sitting here with the t-shirt saying only 0.2 will go. The 5th Ward School is the second ranking highest in 2018, then East St. John the Baptist, and that is the farthest site from the Dinka facility, and then the Mississippi River Levee, Acorn and Highway 44, and Oshner's. So what happens is they go out every 3rd day and put up a monitor. It sucks air in for 24 hours. They remove it, and then they send it off to be analyzed. So these data are just the 2018 data for your reference. So on page number 3, I will talk about in 2008, chloroprene air emissions continue to be detected above that 0.2 at all 6 air monitoring locations that EPA samples, and at all 6 air monitoring locations that Dinka samples. The only same location of EPA and Dinka is the levee right in front of the facility. So on March the 14th, we had EPA detected the highest concentrations in 2018 at 2 locations, the Mississippi River Levee one and the Acorn. And then Dinka on that same date was the highest concentrations in 2018 at both the Mississippi River Levee, the western edge, and the hospital. But always Dinka's concentrations are lower than EPA, and here they're almost half of EPA's sampling on those occasions, and that was March the 14th. At that time, the wind was a light breeze to the south at the beginning of the sampling, and then they measured again at the end, and it was a light breeze out of the north. So St. John census tract information on chloroprene that came out of EPA and NADA determination, where they said it was a likely carcinogen. So St. John has the highest census tract values in the whole country. In the whole United States, the average number risks by census tract is 1.1 to almost 1. The highest concentration in risk by census tract is the one census tract, and you will see it on the next page, 708. It's the one that cuts Dinka about in half. And it is 800 times the national average. So as you see, the risk of cancer from chloroprene is clearly really, really high in your area. On the bottom of page 3, it shows you the risk for each one of the census tracts that you see on the next page. And you see that 708 and 709, which are divided where Dinka is located, are the highest. They have 776 per 1 million and 426 per 1 million. So studies have determined that chloroprene increases the risk of cancer in humans associated with liver cancer, lung cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, and leukemia. So based on publications of rats, mice, and human exposure studies, the consumption and the inhalation, consumption, and skin absorption are the methods that you take chloroprene from the air into your body. The results of air sampling by EPA and Dinka demonstrate that individuals living, working, and attending school in the areas around the Dinka facility are exposed to chloroprene in the air, and you inhale it, you ingest it, and you absorb chloroprene from the air into their bodies. You sitting here tonight are being exposed to chloroprene in the air, and as you breathe it in, and as you swallow your saliva, and as your skin absorbs it, you are absorbing the chloroprene into your body. The highest concentration of chloroprene are normally found in the kidneys, liver, the myocardia or the heart muscle, and the brain as a result of exposure to chloroprene. And chloroprene is quickly metabolized by the liver, and you heard some of the attorneys talk about that. So some of the chloroprene metabolites are presumed to be more toxic than chloroprene itself. Some chloroprene metabolites react with your DNA. Some chloroprene metabolites are mutagens, and chloroprene metabolites are excreted in the urine. So samples of urine were collected from individuals living and attending school in the area around Dinka in March and November of 17. The metabolites of chloroprene were detected in each and every one of the urine samples of the individuals, and it matched the ones that are specific to chloroprene. So the detection of chloroprene metabolites, including all the metabolites, are unique to chloroprene, and they were detected in every sample of urine collected. The continuous exposure that's going on as you sit here, as the communities live in their homes and go to school and go to worship, the continuous exposure of humans to chloroprene in the air in St. John the Baptist serves as a continuous source of chloroprene. So the individual bodies keep taking it in, and the liver breaks it down, and you excrete the metabolites, but you're continually keeping it in. I only get exposed when I come here every 2 weeks, but these people in the audience and your families and friends are exposed on an ongoing basis. So based on sampling of urine of individuals in the reserve and Laplace area, there are completed pathways of human exposure, and that's the last thing you want for your citizens. So on the top of page 6, we talk about the cancer incidence in Louisiana. This was a study that was required by legislation in the 17th session, and the report came out in late March, and you've seen a lot of media about this. One of the things is the incidence rates of cancer in your parish are in 11 of the census tracts, and of those 11, 5 of them exceed the state risk, state incidence. 5 of those 11 exceed it, and 11 of them meet the criteria. You have to have at least 16 incidents. If anything less than 16, it would be, you might have cancer, but I don't want to be able to identify you as the one. So anything less than 16 doesn't get counted. Okay? So then there's significantly higher cancer incidence in 2 of those census tracts, 708 and 710. Remember, 708 is one that's right with Dinka in the middle of it. And then both of those are 25% higher than Louisiana. They're not just a little higher than Louisiana. They're 25% higher. And they are like 708 is, remember, the highest one as far as risk due to chloroprene. So you see all that data plotted on the next page where you can look and see where you live, where your family lives, and see what kind of incidence of cancer occur in those census tracts. Before this, we only had data by the parish, and we had it for an annual basis. Now we have by census tract, so you can really look at this data and get a better idea of what's going on. On page 8, the incidence rate of lung and bronchial cancer is presented. Remember, lung is one of the cancers caused by exposure to chloroprene. So we had 8 census tracts that had enough cases of lung, and of those 4 were higher than the incidence for the state. So that is an outstanding situation. And the other one is colon and rectal. And remember, colon's one associated with exposure to chloroprene. And here you have 7 of the census tracts with reportable data, and 6 of those 7 are higher than the state. So on page 9, we talk about chloroprene air concentrations at the 2 schools. We've been having a lot of focus on the schools, and we had one meeting where the school board presented with the communities, and then we've had a lot of those parents come to the every other week meeting. So on the top of page 9, you see that the EPA monitoring results in excess of 0.2 from the 5th Ward Elementary School, which is really close to the facility, and then the East St. John the Baptist High School, which is just down the road, which is the farthest distance from the facility. You will see that in March of this year, 4 of the monitoring situations were over the 0.2 at the 5th Ward School, and 5 of the non-monitoring situations were over at the East St. John the Baptist High School. So these children, as they go to school and sit there in the classroom, go out at recess, are being exposed to the chloroprene. So the chloroprene air concentrations at the other 4 locations that aren't schools, you'll see in March there were 3 at Chad Baker, there was 5 at Mississippi River Levee, there was 3 at Ochsner Hospital, and there were 3 at Acorn and Highway 44. And then you'll see the asterisk marks the highest concentrations detected in March of 2018. So in summary, the Dinka facility continues to release chloroprene into the air. I'm sorry, you don't have this one on there. Continues to release chloroprene into the air following the installation of those control technologies. The chloroprene is an ambient air at all of the air monitoring locations continue to exceed the 0.2 in 2018. At 4 of the EPA ambient air monitoring locations in 2018, the concentration of chloroprene in the air was 140 to 160 times the 0.2. It's not just a little over, it's a bunch over. The Dinka air monitoring demonstrates chloroprene in excess of 90 times in 2018. So you have EPA's data and you have Dinka. The chloroprene concentrations at the 2 schools exceed 0.2 by up to 162 times in 2018 when the control technologies are operating. The 2 census tracts on which the Dinka facility is located has chloroprene cancer risk of 776 and 426 per million, the highest in the United States of America. The air sample results demonstrate the individuals living, working, attending school in the areas around the Dinka facility are exposed to chloroprene in the air, and those individuals inhale it, ingest it, and absorb it through their skin from the air. Urine tests demonstrate chloroprene metabolites are being excreted in the urine by exposed individuals. Complete pathways of exposure have been demonstrated in community members. And Dr. Brown, at a number of occasions, including the July 7th, 2016 meeting, said one of the alternatives to reducing the chloroprene in the air was to reduce the rate of production. So, looking at the chloroprene and neoprene production rate, which Dinka provides every month, discussions of that reduction rate of decreasing air emissions hasn't happened. The highest chloroprene production rates occurred in December 2016, March, April, and August of 2007, with more than 7 million pounds a month being released. March 2018, which is the latest data we have, had just under 7 million pounds. So they're ramping up their production rate, and it's going to be as high as ever. Neoprene production rates were more than 7 million pounds in August of 17, when they were supposed to be trying to reduce their emissions. The highest production rate since data was available in 2011 occurred in August 2017. So the community, the concerned citizens of St. John, are really, really concerned about the emissions continuing to be released, and they're inhaling, ingesting, and absorbing it, and excreting those metabolites in their urine. But that's a constant process because they continue to be exposed. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Welma, don't go anywhere.
Sure.
Okay, any council member have any question they'd like to ask Ms. Welma after her presentation? No question? Mr. Malik.
I'm trying to think out how to formulate this, but you're a chemist, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I think prior you worked for the EPA as a consultant?
I'm
sorry, but your background included working for the EPA, correct?
I did consulting work for EPA on behalf of communities.
Okay. So obviously you're an educated woman. You really know what you're speaking about. I think the question that I really have is in your opinion, what would be the most prudent thing to do?
A little louder, I'm sorry.
In your opinion, what would be the most prudent thing for DANCA to do? What type of action should they be doing? Is there any additional safeguard that they can do to prevent the chemical from coming out? Or
so in that July 7th, 2016 meeting, Chuck Carr-Brown and the administrator of the EPA presented a number of alternatives. One, shut the facility down. It's the only manufacturer of neoprene in the United States. Two, reduce production, which would reduce the air emissions. And three, do control technologies. So the administrative order on consent required the control technologies. They had agreed to reduce the emissions by 85%. Before they even started, you could calculate and see 85% was not going to get it down to 0.2. During that entire time, Dr. Brown kept saying production rate reduction is still on the table, but it never happened, and the production rate actually increased. That would have also decreased the air emissions. So even with these control technologies, they're still releasing a huge amount, and there needs to be something, whether it be other additional control technologies or whether it be control technologies in addition to what's there, as well as reducing the production rate, which would bring down those emissions.
are you able to speak on any additional technologies that DANCA could install?
I've reviewed all of the information on the ones they put in, and then the issue becomes there's still a lot of things being released into the air that are not going through the control technologies, and you can find that throughout the reports that they provided during the 2017 year as part of their requirement. So there is a lot of technologies you could sit down and discuss. They made statements throughout 17 that we've spent so much money, we can't spend any more money, and we're not going to do any additional technologies, when they were required to look for additional technologies besides the one that were outlined. And then they said, no, we spent enough money, we're not going to look for any additional technologies.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I have a question as well.
Sure.
Okay, I know they had spent, you said they spent some money, and you say there is some additional technology out there that they can go along with what they already have done, but I think you said they have spent enough money, right?
Yes.
Okay, because, if there's anything else out there, okay, it shouldn't be a matter of money concern. It should be a matter of safety. Okay, so money shouldn't be an object if you plan on staying, if there's something else that can be done out there.
So as part of the administrative order on consent, and Dr. Brown knows this, there were specific technologies that they had agreed on, and then there were a clause that said during this 17-year they were going to look at other technologies and other locations within their facility where they could reduce those emissions. And that's when they said, we're not going to do that because we've already spent more money, and we're not going to do it because we don't have any more money to do that. And if they would have been doing that phase of the administrative order on consent, we may be at a position right now with 3 or 4 more alternative technologies that they investigated and they could be implementing in 2018, but that's not happening because they said we're not spending any more money.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Ms. Welma.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, next on the agenda is Dr. Chuck Brown, LDEQ, Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality.
Well, I heard my name quite a bit. I must know something.
I hope so.
I think you know what to ask. I am Dr. Chuck Carl Brown, Secretary of Louisiana DEQ. I always try to be respectful to everybody's opinion. My name was mentioned 4 or 5 times, and we had 3 attorneys that were medical experts and trying to refute what I'm going to say and maybe even get a free deposition. But I'm here to give you some facts and hopefully give you a path forward. We've got some actual air data that I want you all to have starting from 2016 until April of this year. And I want to be able to show you that those numbers, where they started and where they currently are. Then I want to talk to you a little bit about the control equipment that's installed, its efficiency. Nobody talks about that because probably they don't know. Or they haven't heard, or they haven't looked at our data. Because everything that's been talked about, they've gotten from our electronic document management system that we make available to the public for anybody to see and evaluate on their own. We're going to pass these out to you. Since December 31 of 2017, the company, Dinka Performance Elastomers, they had the regenerative thermal oxidizer installed. I've got data. I'll start from 2016. When you look at all 6 sites that you've heard over and over where they are and what they do, for the entire year of 2016, we had an average of about 9.4 micrograms per cubic meter of chloroprene that was emitted. You have a copy of the actual data. I suggest you look at it for yourself. 2017, that number, the entire year, all 6 sites, the average of chloroprene was 4.7 micrograms per cubic meter. That's about a 60% reduction, whatever that number is. From January and February of 2018, in January, the plant had several opportunities to go offline. If you recall, I know you guys had water problems. You had freezes. I think you even had boil water alerts in your parish. But we still collected data. January and February of 18, that average number was 4.2 micrograms per cubic meter. Now, what I did was I took March 1 as the actual steady state operation of the RTO. And you heard that some of the numbers were elevated. Well, the average of all 6 sites for the month of March and April up to April the 7th was 1.5 micrograms per cubic meter.
Excuse me, Mr. Brown, exactly what sheet are you on?
I'm on that one sheet. That's the one right there.
March through April 2018, that's that one.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure everyone was on the right page.
So that average, including the 3/14 date that had an issue with some of their wastewater, we were at 1.5 average. If I took that one spike date out, I'm at 0.8 micrograms per cubic meter. Now, is that where we need to be? We are looking at alternatives, other opportunities for reductions. We did a preliminary stack test on the RTO. We actually did an official stack test on 4/8. The preliminary test shows that the RTO is at 99.1% destructive. It's destroying 99.1% of the chloroprene. I think I was respectful when everybody was talking.
Yes, yes, we
now,
will.
A fact is a fact.
Right, we will.
It's a stack test.
Mr. Brown, okay, I just like to make sure that everybody understands. Just let's be respectful and listen to his information. Okay,
so
go ahead.
When we get the official data back, we will of course share that with you. So we figure there are opportunities out there for further reductions. We know that there's issues with the polycettle room, the fugitive emissions we think we can capture, try and reduce those spikes. We know that there's opportunities when they do maintenance work. We're continuing to collect air data. We're continuing to find ways to reduce that particular number. As long as we can collect 30 to 60 more days of air data, at that point I will come before you again and tell you exactly where we are and what we're going to do to continue to go to reduce our numbers. I'm continuing to be in contact with our medical professionals because you hadn't heard one speak tonight. That as long as they are telling us that we can continue to move forward as we are, that's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to continue to do everything we can to be protective, but we want you to have the accurate information so you can make decisions on your own with data that's unfiltered and is right there for you to see. There's nobody telling you what it says. You can see the numbers for yourself. So at this point, we are at about 1.5, even including that March 14th date. When I see the numbers, which I see them before everybody sees them, and I look at them, and I ask questions from not only my staff, but we're in consultation with EPA constantly, both Dallas and Washington, D.C. This is high on our priority list. Somebody talked about we haven't discussed production. Well, how would they know that? So I'm just being rhetorical, but how would they know what's being discussed between us, the company, and EPA regarding every opportunity to reduce chloroprene? So I'm here to give you this information. I wanted you to have it. I'll answer any questions that you may have. Again, we're in consultation with our medical professionals, both locally and nationally. We've got experts from all over the country. We're dealing with, as a matter of fact, I have a call that I'm going to sit in on tomorrow with the national EPA counterpart, their health agency, the ASTDR. So we're discussing the data that's been presented to them, what their opinions are. There was some discussions about what kind of cancers chloroprene can cause. Well, I would ask that question of medical professionals. So you will have the accurate information so you can make accurate decisions regarding where our path forward is going to be. So having said all that, I will say this. I see Mr. Chairman. When I started coming here, that was Mr. Chairman. And then last year, that was Mr. Chairman. So I understand that every year we get a new chairman. I hope I'm not here with all of you having the opportunity to be chairman. Hopefully you're the last one I have to stand before and talk about this subject matter.
Well, hopefully we get everything that will benefit the community out of all of these meetings that we have and the concerns from both groups.
And let me say this. I was the first one that brought this to the community. On that July 7th meeting of 2016, that's been referenced more than once, we stood before the community and laid out the case before them. So I just wanted that to be a part of this record.
Okay, well, I'd just like to say a couple of things. You're right. Okay, I remember the day we received the phone call from Ms. Robottom to come to the EOC, and we had a meeting concerning this very topic. And then we went from having a meeting in the EOC to a meeting with the community at Our Lady of Grace. Okay, I remember that specifically, and first time I was aware of this situation was at that time. Okay, so you are right. You're the one that brought it to our attention, and it seems as though this particular chloroprene was in the news prior to us even knowing anything about it, as far as I think far back as 2010 or something like that.
Well, my understanding it's been produced at that plant since the early 70s.
Oh, no, I understand that. I meant when the first said it was possible, right? Some data that came in 2010, right?
It was released in 2015.
Right, okay. And one of the questions that I have personally, and then we'll move on to some of the experts, like you said. You mentioned, Ms. Welma mentioned the fact that there is some additional technology that may be available to help reduce it.
I don't think she did.
Well, I think you said it, didn't you?
What I said was, right now we have the best available control technology in place. It's 99.1% effective.
Mm-hmm.
There are other areas that we need to look at when it comes to fugitive emissions. We think that some of their processes we need to examine further and even reroute some of those emissions to the RTO.
Okay, which in turn would reduce some of the emissions.
Which will continue to push the number down.
Okay, and let me ask you another question. And I understand what you say, that they wouldn't have a way of knowing about your conversation with Dinka as far as a reduction in the product, right?
As we move forward and continue to collect data, if I can't get to the numbers that I need to get to, production reduction is not off the table.
Okay, because I'm not a scientist or anything, but I remember a meeting before, and I think Mr. Pearlie was in that meeting. I don't know if Mr. Snyder was in there, where I brought up to a couple of Dinka's employees about reducing production, a certain time of the day, and so I brought that up to them over a year ago. But like you said, it's not off the table. Okay, that could be something down the line.
It's not off the table.
Okay. Any other questions from you council members? Mr. Snyder.
Mr. Brown, you did say that they are working, or they will be looking at a fugitive emission program over there, or do they already have a fugitive emission program?
Well, right now, what we've already undertook is what's called an LDAR process. It's leak detection and repair.
Right.
We think that the opportunities for further reduction is when they perform maintenance activities. Sometimes they open up the tanks, and you'll get a spike here. And we think that part of their production facility, which is the polykeller room, there's opportunity there for further reduction of the fugitives. So yes, we think there's other opportunities there.
Because I know that's a very with a lot of, I know Marathon probably got it, I know Dow have it, I'm sure DuPont have it. That fugitive emission program is vital, and if they are doing it, then I guess there's not much room for to improve on it if they are doing the fugitive emission. As far as I know, for a fugitive emission, where every flange come together, every valve, everything is monitored all the time. And if they're doing that, then that's one of the methods by which to get rid of these things. That's why I asked you if they had a fugitive emission program like that.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, they do, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, well, that's for sure.
And that's what we're trying to get to. Where are some sources we haven't seen before?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Supra.
Yes, Mr. Brown, you are an expert in this position, correct, for the state?
I hope to think so.
And who do you report to?
Governor John Bell Edwards.
Okay. Ms. Welma just mentioned about the urine samples that were caught from the children and the people within this community and adults. How can we dispute the samples coming back with the cellulites in it?
Well, there's been, and I'll let our medical professionals address that, but there's never been any denial that anybody who's exposed will probably have a metabolite in their body.
So in your years of experience, you deal with a lot of plants up and down the river, correct?
There are lots of plants in the state of Louisiana.
And you had your own consulting firm at some point dealing with these plants?
I've worked in lots of arenas.
Have you ever worked for DuPont as a
No.
consultant?
No.
Were you ever paid by DuPont as a consultant?
Never.
So you're telling me right now these urine samples don't count?
I didn't say that at all.
Well, you've been in the business all these years, Mr. Brown. You should know that.
Is I'd let my medical professionals address that.
Well, the EPA is trying to say, the EPA is telling you right now this thing is out of balance.
EPA is not standing in front of you.
You contradicting the EPA.
How is that?
They don't agree with the readings that we're getting.
How did you deduce that?
The EPA is not agreeing with the .2 that you're trying to get to.
EPA has been working with me step and step.
Okay, so you're telling me that everything's okay. We just need to move on with our lives.
I'm not saying
and don't
that
worry
at all.
about it.
Not at all.
How long you been in this position, Mr. Brown?
Since 2016.
Okay, Mrs. Robert. Okay, we're not here to question his qualification. We're here to question the documented information he gave. Okay, it's not us, our responsibility to question his qualification for the positions he's in. Okay, now you have any question pertaining to the comments he made as far as what's in the kid's blood and everything? I think he would say that he have some medical expert here that may be more able to answer that question that you asking him. Okay, because you're asking him to answer a question that he's undoubtedly not qualified because he's not a medical doctor. But we do have some medical doctors here. That's what you're saying? So I think they would be the one to answer that question. If you would yield the mic to the medical consultant.
And Mr. Marday, I understand clearly about all this, but Mr. Brown reports to one man. We report to this whole parish.
I understand that. Okay, and this whole parish is going to see this meeting. But
Correct.
the whole thing is it's not about his qualification. It's about the information that you presented to us.
I'm not questioning his qualifications. I'm questioning his surroundings in the chemical industry. That's what I'm questioning.
We here for the information. Okay.
Well, he's here to answer the question I asked him.
He's here to answer the question that you asked. But listen to me.
Well, I don't have to listen to you. I'm talking to Mr. Brown.
I'm the chairman. And I'm going to explain
And I'm talking to Mr. Brown.
And I'm going to explain to you. I'm talking to you.
Well, I'm talking to you too.
Okay, well, listen then. And you will get your chance to talk. Now, I'm telling you, this is about what's on this sheet. Now, anything that you want to ask him concerning Dinka, not him personally, and any question you want to ask concerning medical, there's some doctors right here. Now, that's the question you can ask. Okay? Now, anything you want to ask him about his own personal business or whatever you do, you can do that outside, but not on this agenda.
I have never asked Mr. Brown anything about his personal business. I asked him a question about the business in the chemical industry. That's it.
That's his business.
He's an expert.
Now, do you have any other question concerning the information he made, and we can get the doctors up here?
No, I don't have any more questions, Mr. Brown.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yield to the medical, because we do have a couple of questions for them.
I'm Dr. Jimmy Guidry. I'm the state health officer, and I've come to before you all before on this issue and shared with you that I've been concerned from the beginning of the exposure to this chemical and been pushing real hard to get all the expertise in the room to try to address it. There's not a whole lot of science on chloroprene, even though it sounds like we know everything about chloroprene. It's a little confusing about how the data is presented, because when you look at total cancers, as experts, we don't look to see a chemical here and total cancers here. Cancers have a lot of things that cause it. So it gets a little confusing when you say we have elevated total cancers. And there might be a cancer here that's not related to chloroprene at all, that's making the number go up. So saying chloroprene's here and the cancers are here doesn't mean that it necessarily a causal relationship, but we don't need to be exposed to this chloroprene at the level. We need to get it down. And that's really what we're working towards. I'm with the folks on the issue that it's not happening fast enough, but there's technology and there's ways to bring it down, and it's being worked on. But it's still not an easy question to answer. I've got Dr. Luann White, who's from Tulane, who's a toxicologist, who's an expert in the field of exposures and chemicals. And she has helped me put together a panel of folks to decide how urgent is this? Is this a public health emergency? Is this something that we have to do today, or do we have time? And so I'm going to let her share with you what she's found out in talking to folks and maybe try to answer some of your questions. Dr. Luann White.
I'm Luann White. I'm a toxicologist and I'm at Tulane. I've worked with Dr. Guidry for since this began, way back since we first heard about it, beginning in 2016. And we have done a tremendous amount of research and investigation on it, primarily to see what was going on, what are the possible health effects. First, I think we need to think about when we look at the modelings that say this is the highest risk area. This isn't risk that is measured, this is risk that's through various risk assessments and various models. Those models are not meant to predict health effects, they're developed to give the regulators information to reduce these emissions. So there's often a misunderstanding that the regulatory level is a health effect level, and that's not the case because we have many safety factors and uncertainty factors that we put in there because we don't know. End of last summer, beginning of last fall, we convened a panel and we brought together several of the experts in Louisiana and some from outside. We had people from ATSDR. We had various physicians and toxicologists from LSU Shreveport, LSU New Orleans, the Tumor Registry, Oshner Clinic, the Poison Control Center, who looked at all of the data and said, with the question, what Dr. Guidry asked us was, is this a public health emergency? Looking at the data, the exposure data, and what we could look in the literature is that definitely we wanted the levels in the air to come down, but it didn't constitute a public health emergency. The levels are intermittent. They were higher. We've seen them come down over the last year and a half, 2 years, which is what we're looking at. And so it's, as Dr. Guidry says, we remain concerned, but we see the levels going in the right direction. The levels, when we start talking about these average levels, they've been given in micrograms per meter, which is how, or cubic meters. If you translate that back, we're looking at the low part per billion range when you convert that. Okay, that's a very low level. We want them lower, but we don't have very high levels that would tip this over into some kind of acute emergency.
Okay, well, before I ask my question, anyone have any questions for Mr. Snyder?
Thank you. Dr. White, thank you. The LEL that the EPA put out, 0.2, how part per billion that might be? Do you have any idea?
0.2, maybe 0.05 part per billion.
0.05?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about fairly low levels.
Right. Yeah. I know 0.05 is. Now, does it actually dictate that if I'm exposed to 0.2 for 20 years that I will definitely catch cancer?
No. What that is that is a modeled risk number. The reason why we use this modeling is because it's below any level that we could observe. I mean, these are extremely low levels, so we can't see an effect in people. So they use statistical models that bring in a lot of different variables and look at it. So it's meant to be a guideline for regulators to keep levels as low as possible, even given all of the safety factors and uncertainty factors that we put into the various statistical models. It's not a measured level. It's a statistical level.
But I guess if that number increases, it would increase your chances of some cells mutating or whatever.
Right. It's a risk level. It's not a prediction. It's a risk.
And there is no way that if I go in the hospital and they find out that I may have this disease, they can say it came from neoprene or it came from pork chops.
No. There's no way when you look at a cancer you can say what caused it. When we do studies, unfortunately, when we try to look at these very low levels, everything is overshadowed by smoking. If I want to say one thing that I know causes cancer, it's smoking. People don't want to hear that, but when you do when you do your epidemiological studies and you look at it, it's like chloroprene would be a drop, and smoking would be an ocean, and so it's hard to pick that out. You can't say it didn't cause it,
right? Okay.
But you can't say it did cause it either. So what we want to do is decrease the level that's in the air as much as you possibly can. That's the best thing we can do to try to prevent it.
So in conclusion, if there are a cancer level in a certain area that's higher than normal, maybe just bear with me here, and it just so happened in that particular area we got 2 chemical plants, and would it be practical to say that this cancer came from one of those chemical plants, or maybe one of those chemical plants might have caused it?
I think you can say, well, there's a risk, but then when you do this, you've got to control for all the risk, and it's very difficult to say a single cancer came from a single
chemical
particular cause.
Okay.
That being said, we still want to reduce those levels.
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, Mr. Parallel.
Ms. White, I'm a reference Ms. Welma said something about metabolite. What is that?
A metabolite is when substances go into our body breaks them down.
Right.
The body breaks them down because once they get in, the body wants to get rid of them, and that's the way that's one of the ways that it gets rid of them, is by breaking them down into other compounds that can then be more readily excreted.
So metabolite can be caused by numerous things, or chloroprene, or anything else?
Okay. Well, everything is metabolized down. The thing is, we have many different compounds that have common metabolites, and so what we look for, which she referred to, are unique metabolites, what is only coming from a particular compound. So when we find metabolites, sometimes they can tell us a family of compounds. Sometimes, if they're unique, then we can relate that back to a particular compound. But when we detect it, what it means is that is a biomarker of exposure. We know we've been exposed. Well, we know if chloroprine's in the air, we know people have been exposed. What it doesn't tell us is what is the effect after that. Because you can have it, there can be no effect, there could be effect, but we know it's there, but we don't necessarily know what that effect is. And there's not very good studies that relate that exposure to an effect.
Thank you. I just have one more comment.
Okay.
I just have one more comment. I'm going to comment to Mr. Supra. Mr. Supra, we're not here across the river for judge and jury. We're here to get the information. We're not going to attack individuals, Ms. Welma, Mr. Guidry, Ms. White, or Mr. Brown. We're not going to do that. That's just disrespectful. We're trying to get information for the public so the public can see what's going on and we get the best information. Because I heard some things tonight. I didn't agree with it, and I'm not going to attack anybody, but I want to listen from all sides to make judgments and to make how we should proceed this, but not attacking his credibility or anybody's credibility or what they did prior to coming here for work. You actually, he had a consulting business. That's not what we're talking about. I mean, you got to give respect to the chair. He's trying to control the meeting. This is not on the West Bank at the courthouse. We got to have respect in there, respect each other, and listen to the information. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, before we go on with Mr. Malik, I have a question. I'd like to thank Mr. Perlew for saying that, because we're doing our best to control this meeting. And I think the people in the audience have done a tremendous job sitting there and listening. I'm pretty sure 50% agree with Ms. Welma said, 50% agree with what Mr. Brown said. But whether you agree or disagree, there's a level of respect that everyone owe to each other, okay, when we're talking about this. And when someone is up there to that mic, they deserve all the respect from everyone, this council and everyone sitting out there. And that's what I expect, and that's what we're going to get. Okay, and if anyone violates that, you understand, then I made it perfectly clear before the meeting started, I would have you removed from the council chamber. Okay, it's all about respect, it's all about information. We all in this together. It's from St. John the Baptist Parish, and we want the best possible solution for the people. And where she went? She need to come back up to the mic.
She would sit down.
Oh, no, they're not finished with you. No. You're not tired, huh? Okay. We have a few more questions Mr. Mellon have for you. Okay, and then I have one I'm going to say of mine after he's finished. Mr. Mellon.
Thank you, Doctor. Is this, within this area, are there certain types of cancer that we're more prone to?
What do you mean?
Are there higher? Is there a higher rate of any specific cancer within the St. John?
You'd need to ask the tumor registry and the.
Yeah, and I don't know if Dr. Guidry would have been able to answer it.
I'm a toxicologist
Where did Dr. Guidry disappear? Oh, there he is. I'm sorry. Would you be able to answer that, sir?
We've looked at cancer in a number of ways for this area. First, we did it at the parish level, and people said that wasn't detailed enough. So if I could try to give an example of how the numbers can be changed on you. If you look at people in general, and everybody knows somebody with cancer, everybody knows somebody in a family with cancer, and the reason is, if you live old enough, 1 in 2 males will have cancer. It might be prostate, might be, all kinds of different cancers. 1 out of 3 females will have cancer. So you start with a fairly high number to begin with. So it's really important to know the ages of people and the cancers and the types. So we looked at lung and liver because what you have here is there were some experiments, and this is why it's so difficult with animals, which doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen in humans, but mice and rats constantly exposed to a chemical, and then look at what cancers you find. And there were multiple cancers in those animals, but not intermittent exposure, not where the wind's blowing, where they're constantly being exposed. And so there's those cancers that people say, oh, chloroprene causes these things in animals. And then there's the human cancers that we know of so far, and most of it is centered around lung and liver. So we looked at lung and liver in the parish, didn't see a spike that we would expect from being exposed to a chemical for 40 years. So that kind of made you feel somewhat good, but then, we heard that, hey, you better look at the census tract level. When you get down to smaller numbers, it changes. If I I go to your family and 1 out of 20 people have cancer, then that's 1 out of 20. If I take one family and that's 2 people, and 1 of those people have cancer, that's 50%. So the smaller your numbers, the harder it is to extrapolate. So we looked at the census tract, and we didn't see huge numbers that alarmed us in lung and liver, which is what we relate to chloroprene. Now, I'm sharing all this with you from my experts and what they've told me. The tumor registry did this because the legislature said we want to see census tract data, and then you got to try to explain what it means. There are multiple sites around Louisiana with elevated cancers. When you use total cancers, it confuses the picture because if you have a cancer that's not caused by chloroprene, but it makes the number go up because you have a lot of people with a certain cancer, then that changes the numbers. So there are actually people in Louisiana with a higher level of cancer, just like there are here, that are not anywhere near a plant. So they obviously are exposed to something else, or something else has happened. But you can't assume, just because you have a high number, that it's related to one thing. It's related to our lifestyle, our choices, and our exposures. So not disputing the fact that it's a carcinogen, we should get the number down as much as possible, but I'm not seeing the huge spikes that concern me that after 40 years of exposure, there's a lot more cancer here as a result of chloroprene. There is an elevation in some of these census tracts, but there's nothing glaring. But it does concern me, like why? You know, is it that, what is going on? Not an easy question to answer because it could be for a lot of reasons. For instance, in black males, there's a higher incidence of prostate. That's across the country. They have more prostate cancer in black males. So if you have more black males, that cancer is going to bring your rate up. Well, does it cause prostate cancer in humans? Not anything that I've seen in the literature that says that, but you know, I've always left it open. The more information we get, the more we share, hearing from each other, the more we can make better decisions. Mm-hmm. So there's no easy answer to your question. But
well, I didn't think it was, but
yeah,
you look like the smartest guy in the room. So.
But I do feel that we continue to look at it, we continue to ramp the number down, and we try to answer the questions. One of the things that's really difficult in Louisiana that I have a hard time is that the cancer incidence may not be that elevated, but if you get cancer in Louisiana, the chances of you dying from it is higher because people don't go in early, they don't get diagnosed early, they don't get treated, therefore they end up getting a bad outcome. That we can correct with, you know, people catching things early, but it's certainly everything we can do to minimize our cells in our bodies changing, whether that's an exposure to something, eating the right foods, not smoking, drinking in moderation, all these things that we can do to avoid turning on cells that become cancerous. So I don't know why there's an elevated level in some of these and it being tied to because it's around Dinka, but I'm also seeing that same elevation in census tract away from Dinka and in census tracts nowhere near Dinka. So there's, you know, you got to try to answer the question, but it's not an easy thing to do.
But the only way you can ingest chloroquine is through breathing?
Breathing, ingestion through your skin. So obviously it's another chemical that enters your body that can make changes in your body. And the more we can make that at a level as low as possible, that's what we should strive for.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Supra.
Yes, like both of y'all. Okay. We had an expert mention about the urine, the cellulites in the urine. So the samples that were taken, how can I go back into my community and tell my community to protect yourself? Is there some special respirator we should wear every day?
Well, I mean, obviously, if there is chloroprene in the air, people are being exposed to it. I mean, you don't have to measure urine to know that. The levels are going down, so that's good. We want them to go down further. That's good. But I don't think that we necessarily say because you have that exposure, you're necessarily going to have a cancer or what that is, because there's just breathing it is not going to cause cancer.
So you don't, in your opinion, you are an expert. You don't think that we need to test everybody in the parish to see exactly how many people have chloroprene in the urine?
I don't know that testing would tell you more than what you already know.
So we should just keep breathing the chloroprene until it comes down.
No. Well, we need it to come down, but it's test. Well, the testing may tell you whether there's exposure or not, but it's not going to tell you what the effect is.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say a couple of things myself. One thing is you can see why the level of concern, because this is the community that's, not say been targeted, but recognized that have a lot of chloroprene in the air. Okay, and it seems as though the only solution is to get the level down, as you say. You say it's a concern, but we definitely have to bring the levels down, right? I think you also say some of the levels have been going down, and you also say they're not where we want them to be. Okay, do you have a specific number where you would be comfortable in saying that, is to that safe level.
EPA has come out and said their number that they calculated from a mathematical formula, and until we can prove otherwise, that we should strive to get to that number.
And what number is that, to be exact?
0.2.
Huh? 0.2. Okay. Thanks for the applause. But once again, like I said, try to keep quiet. And that's the thing I wanted to make sure that we get out there. That is 0.2 is what they say is this basically a safe level. And as we talk tonight, we are not at that level.
No, sir.
Okay, so we have to strive now to continue to work with the EPA and DEQ and DINCA to approach that level and get to that level, right?
And EPA and DEQ may, find out down the road that they can't get to that level and they'll have to make other decisions.
Now, when you say other decision, what do that entail? Possibly.
You have to try to get, I'll let DEQ answer for that, because
Yeah.
that's their decision.
Yes.
We're going to strive to get as low as we possibly can. I've said that over and over and over. At some point, if I can't get to where I need to be, then I'm going to take some further steps. I'm not going to tell you what that is tonight because I don't know what that is just yet.
Now, one other question I'd like to ask you. The fact that, I think just about everyone in here then have someone in their family or friend affected by cancer, and it's not nice. Okay, like I said, I lost my father to cancer in '84. Now, and I will say this: I think what's the name, Miss White, the lady that was up there, Miss White. I think she mentioned that several things can cause cancer, and chloroprene being one of them. Okay, and like I said. Daddy lived there all his life, less than a mile from DuPont, and he was exposed, okay, because we was not aware in the 60s, the 70s, or the 80s, or even up until 2016 that we was being exposed to this stuff, okay. So it's safe to say that I can't say exactly that his death was caused by chloroprene, because he did smoke. And he did work at Garrison Sugar Refinery. So they do have three possible causes. Two that I knew of before, and this third one, which I just recently found out in 2016. Okay, basically on that. So I used to always be upset with cigarettes and Garrison Sugar Refinery, but possibility it could have been chloroprene. You would agree with that? It's a possibility. Not necessarily a cause. I mean, maybe it's best for the doctor to answer that question. Okay?
I don't think the doctor can tell you that specifically.
No. He can answer this question the way I'm afraid to tell him. Okay? And what I'm asking him is, I would be right to say that out of the three that I mentioned, the two that I knew before and the one that I knew now, I'm still will not be able to say which one actually caused his cancer. Is it right or wrong?
You have cells in your body, and it's thought that some of them are predestined to become cancerous. You're born with them, and those cells can go wild with just exposure to certain things, whether it's food or alcohol. So you can't really pinpoint what turns a cell on. If you put me, what's the highest risk? Definitely smoking, much more toxic. Chloroprene can cause cancer. So when we have a family member or a loved one that gets cancer, we want to know what the hell happened, what caused this cancer. You don't know that. You can't prove it. And that's the thing that's really difficult, is that if you know you've been exposed to carcinogen, what's the biggest carcinogen besides smoking that we are exposed here? It's actually at the gas pump. It's benzene. It's much more toxic than chloroprene. But we don't talk about that too much, but every time you pump gas, you're exposed to benzene. So is that going to turn a cell on? I don't know. You have to live healthy as best you can, and you have to minimize exposures as best you can. There's risk in everything. So the answer is I can't answer what he died of. He died of cancer.
Okay. Mr. Supra.
Mr. Brown? You're the head of DEQ, and DENCA's in violation. Am I correct?
We've got some enforcement action.
Okay, so normally when a plant's in violation, do they pay any type of fine for being in violation?
We're right now settling what that's going to be.
So you talking about that right now?
Of course.
So we have other plants that are paying fines right now. They're above the emissions, but they're paying a fine, correct?
In 2016, I collected $3 million in penalties. In 2017, 1.5, I'm adding them up, 2.5 million. We fine and enforce environmental rules all the time.
Okay. So we let them pay the fine and keep polluting. That appears to be the standard.
Of course not. It's a corrective action.
That appears to be Cancer Alley.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Rapparoot, if you feel there's a Cancer Alley.
Well,
there
it's
are
not what I
industrial
feel.
plants all over the state of Louisiana.
You said you collected $3 million in fines, so you're taking the fine and let them pollute. Sounds like that's what is going on to me.
Well, that's not accurate.
How many fines did Dinka pay so far?
We still selling it. I think I mentioned that.
Hold on. Okay, once again, okay, we off track.
No, I don't think we off track.
Mr. Rapparoot, I'm going to tell you just one more time. I'll let you speak. I'm the chairman, and I'm speaking now. I control this meeting, okay? And that not only go for the citizens out there, that also go for council members too, okay? And when I mentioned about having citizens removed, that also reflects the council.
Well, that's fine.
Okay, let me finish.
Well, let's talk
okay,
about
let me finish. We're not here to discuss fines.
I have a question about Dinka paying
I said we are not here to discuss a fine by any other plant. Okay, it's only about chloroprene and the report he gave and the report Ms. Welma gave. We're not here to discuss any fines by any other plant up this river. We're not here to discuss the fines on DuPont. If you want to know what the fines are about DuPont and Dinka, put it on the next council agenda.
No.
Okay, but it's not, okay, then you don't want to know it.
That's
okay,
public
but you're
record,
not, that's not what we here tonight to discuss. Now, if you want to know about fines by any plant in this area, put it on the agenda. But we're not here to discuss fines, how much someone paid or nothing. We're here to find a solution to chloroprene, okay, and how we can affect and better serve the people in our area. Not about a fine. A fine is not going to stop cancer. A fine is not going to stop chloroprene. So I could care less about a fine. I'm more about a solution and not about a fine. Fine don't save no one.
You're exactly
about the
correct.
solution.
You are
Okay, so
correct.
let's move on and get off of fines and get on to the topic that we hear about. There's no comments from the citizens in the audience. You need to raise your hand. Okay? Now this is how it's going. This is how it's going to go. Okay? Stick to the topic on this agenda. Now, if you want to talk about fines, put it on the next agenda, and I'll make sure you get a chance to talk about it. But we're not here tonight to talk about anybody fine, any plant, Dinka, or nothing else. We hear about chloroprene that's affecting the citizen in our district. And that's the answer I want. I could care less about a fine. I care more about lives.
Make one last comment that we're going to continue to work. We're going to continue to work with our local partners, our federal partners, and we're going to continue to be protective of these citizens. We're going to do everything within our power. So I just want you to know that we will come back at the appropriate time, give you an update on where we stand, and then we'll hopefully have something better to tell you than what we told you tonight. The numbers are heading down. It's not where we want to be, but we're continuing to work for a positive solution.
Okay, I just want to say one other thing. First, I want to thank Ms. Welma and the concerned citizen for showing up tonight and bringing this to the forefront. I also want to thank you for the report that you gave. Okay, and if anyone feelings is hurt, upset, or problem, hey, I'm concerned about finding a solution. I'm not concerned about any fines. I'm not concerned about who's right, who's wrong. I want a solution, and the people want a solution. And along with you, Ms. Welma, and the concerned citizens are going to stay on top of it. We're going to find a solution that's going to bring this down. Okay? And whenever we have something on the topic, we will stick to the topic. And if you want to change anything, put it on the next agenda.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on the agenda. Okay, next on the agenda is, I got it. Mr. Larry Snyder presentation, Tommy Scott, Louisiana Workforce Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah.
We have a motion on the table for a 5 minutes recess.
And a second,
And a second. You use your lights.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent. 5-minute recess at 8:01.
Okay, motion by Mr. Perilou to go back into meeting, second by Mr. Snyder. Use your lights, please.
That carries 8 in favor with 1 absent.
Okay, next on the agenda is Ms. Natalie Rubano.
No, it's Scott.
It's Scott, I'm sorry. We started with Scott, yeah, Tommy Scott, Louisiana Workforce Commission.
Thank you and good afternoon, Mr. Chair, council members, and President Rowbottom. My name is Tommy Scott. I'm the director of the Louisiana Workforce Commission over the River Parishes Consortium. We do have offices in Luling, Vacherie, and of course right here in Laplace. I'd like to thank Councilman Snyder for reaching out to me and allowing me this platform to speak to you all today. The Louisiana Workforce Commission has gone under different monikers throughout the years. We've been JTPA, we've been Job One, we've been the Business and Career Solutions Center, WIA, and even WIOA, and most recently American Job Centers. But the one thing that has remained true over the years, despite all of our transitions and transformations, is the great array of services that we provide to the public. Mr. Snyder reached out to me because there wasn't an article in last week's issue of L'Observateur, and it featured myself, and I was speaking on all the great training programs that we have made available to the residents of St. John Parish. The issue that we have is one that, I'll be honest, it exists in St. Charles Parish, it exists in St. James Parish. The issue is the lack of clients, members of our community, and residents that take advantage of these great programs. We are indeed a government agency, so all of our services are available to the public at no cost. Absolutely. I like to tell people it costs them nothing but their time. We have a great array of new programs that we're implementing, and that's what I'm here to speak to you about today. Normally, we engage residents in training, accelerated training regimens such as obtaining a CDL license, going to welding, even any short-term accelerated training as it relates to trade careers, process technicians, welders, fitters, things of that nature. But within the last year, I'm really excited. We've implemented an array of new programs to the area, and I think it's some things that we really can get the information out to our residents and kind of get the workforce area in St. John Parish just up to speed and really in the view of what employers really want. The main complaint that I receive from a lot of employers is that there is a lack of individuals that can fill the positions that actually come to different areas, not just this area. But in the last year, we've implemented a collaborative effort with Oxnard Healthcare Centers for a program that we entitled our Medical Assistant Training Program. And what it was is we sat down with the human resource strategist from Oxnard, and we created a curriculum for medical assistants, and Oxnard agreed that upon successful completion of that program, that all the individuals would be considered for employment opportunities with the Oxnard healthcare system, us directly placing individuals into lucrative career opportunities. That was the first time that program had ever been implemented throughout the river parishes. I'm very excited about that. But long story short, the program consisted of 16 weeks of classroom training and 4 weeks of clinicals. Upon graduation, we had 20 individuals that actually graduated from the program, and to this date, 18 of those individuals have acquired opportunities within the Oxnard healthcare system. Aside from that, we also partner with Delgado yet again and Entergy. We have a certified utility lineman training program. The individuals that maintain the telephone poles and the energy poles in our area. And what I did not know is that those poles are actually maintenance annually after every hurricane season. So as you can imagine, in this particular climate, that is a high demand occupation in our area, and the salaries can vary greatly, topping out at around $75,000, even $80,000 annually. And most recently, and I have handouts for all of you. It's entitled, it says Film Industry 101 on top. But most recently, what we've done is we've partnered with New Orleans Video and Audio Center. And basically what they do is they train individuals in the film production industry. And I was speaking with our Economic Development Director, Jerry Jones. He issued an email a few weeks ago, and it stated that there is an intense demand for individuals in the film production industry within the state of Louisiana, but also specifically in St. John Parish. Television and film production crews come from all over. For one, Louisiana is given a tax credit, which has deemed us the nickname Hollywood South. But in addition to that, St. John Parish has its beautiful countryside, if you will, scenic landscaping and things of that nature. And plus, by being at a discounted rate, we have a lot of television and film production crews that are flocking to the area. Problem is, when they get here, they need trained individuals to assist them with whatever task that they may have in hand. And the reason why I bring this up is because I don't doubt for a second that we definitely have the resources in this room as public officials and public servants to really appease and service the residents of this community. I think it's just something that we really need to help each other. I really need the help from each and every single one of you to increase the platform so that we can raise awareness to our residents about these types of programs. And that's really what the Workforce Commission is here to do. Not only just put people to work, but to be that liaison between job seekers and employers. So I think it's great that Jerry was able to identify the fact that there is a demand for individuals in the film production industry. And on the other side, you have us at the Workforce Commission. This program in which I provided you information on is something that we've actually been advertising for 2 months to get a full class for this particular training regimen. And to date, we only have 16 individuals that have visited our offices. Only 16 out of a potential 30. So we're 14 short at this point. But the thing about it is that these are the types of opportunities that are available right here. And you have people who are, around it. And I really think it's an awareness issue. They just simply don't know, to be honest with you. So again, I really like this opportunity, and I have provided each and every single one of you with my contact information. If there's anything that I can do, any other platform, any other place that I can come and just do my part to inform the residents of our community, I'd be more than happy to do so. And before I leave you today, I just want to express that personally, I think that this is a wonderful parish that we have of St. John. We have great public officials and individuals and members of administration that really support this. Mrs. Rowbottom and I even had a conversation upon her initial election about us finding a way that we can reach all residents from all walks of life, whether they follow a conventional collegiate course or whether they attain a GED or not and still want to go on and find a lucrative career opportunity. So at the Workforce Commission, our main goal, our only goal, is to ensure our residents that not only can they live in St. John Parish and enjoy our beautiful countryside, if you will, but that they can also provide sustainable qualities of life for themselves as well as their families right here in St. John Parish. So thank you for that, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council?
Just quickly.
Mr. President.
Just quickly, Mr. Scott, thank you for coming because I read the article in the Observatory too.
Thank you.
But for us, let's say for our kids as high school, have you reached out and or maybe had a presentation at the school board meeting?
Excellent question. To be honest with you, I have not made a presentation at the actual school board meeting. However, we do have a youth program, and I'm glad that you brought that up. We have a summer youth program, which we provide work experience to individuals, mainly between the ages of 17 and 24, so some are high school age, most are kind of getting out of the high school area. But what we do is we actually go out to the high schools and we speak to students roughly around their junior years in high school and go back their senior years to reiterate the services that we have available. Okay. But the work experience program that we have is a program where we actually pay employers to allow these students or these youth to actually attain work experience, and in a lot of instances it's almost like an internship for them to give them that opportunity, and it results in long-term career opportunities for them. So yes, we do have that connection with the youth. We are in in constant contact with the school administrators, counselors of that nature, but I have not made a specific presentation at the school board meeting, but I would be more than happy to do so if necessary.
Sure, and one more question with the youth program, because I think I talked to somebody with one of the youth counselors. What I find too, a lot of, and that's why I say the high school kids when they come out interviewing for jobs, is the interviewing skills. Mm-hmm. We need to teach them how to do the interview skills. I have sat on several hiring committee, and I noticed the lack in that interviewing process. They freeze up. They don't have the interview skills, and they just pass by for jobs. So are we offering those kind of programs too?
Absolutely, we do. We do also offer job search, resume preparation, but also the soft skills that you alluded to earlier, the interview skills, the proper way to speak, the proper way to dress, to conduct yourselves on the job, to even deal with workplace confrontation, things of that nature. So we do have that. Again, it's something that's available to members of the community at no cost whatsoever. They simply need to walk into our doors and request that information, and we definitely can provide that service to them. I just want to add real quick. Also, we used to be in the front of Cambridge, across from Traffic Court. We have recently moved. We are behind the Donut Hole, which is one of St. John Parish's top landmarks in my book. It's just my personal preference, but if you go right behind the Donut Hole, which I believe the address is 421 West Airline, Suite F. We are in that particular suite at this moment. We are working on signage. We recently moved about 2 months ago. So if anybody's trying to locate us, that is where we can be found. But we really have all aspects of the population covered as far as how we can assist individuals. If it's not a service that we can provide directly, we have a plethora of collaborative partners throughout the region in which we can relay individuals. Yes, ma'am. And we also, thank you, Ms. Robon, we also have a special individual who deals specifically with veterans as well. We do have a lot of distressed veterans, just in general, not just the St. John Parish thing, but we do have a lot of veterans who need assistance. And again, whether that be with whatever phase of the job search process that they are in, the same programs like we have for the youth that will apply as well. Where we will even pay an employer up to 50% of a new employee's salary up to the duration of their initial hiring. The only thing that we require from that is that they are offered a full-time employment opportunity after that. But we have veterans. We assist them with things such as counseling as well, just everything to get them back into the workforce as well. So thank you for that, Mrs. Robottom. But we have specialists for youth. We have specialists for veterans. We even deal with older individuals who may have retired and want to return to work. We do partner with AARP and have some employment opportunities for that particular demographic as well. So we really have everything covered. There really is a free service available to every member of society and all of our residents, regardless of where they may be. What we really need more than anything is just to promote the awareness and to get those individuals to take the time, come into our centers, because everyone's situation varies. And I just want to, I guess, erase the stigma of us just being the unemployment office. I prefer to say we're the reemployment office, because that's what we set out to do every single day, is see exactly how we can put people to work. And that's our motto. If you look on the back of my card, which I provided you with, it simply says we put people to work. And point blank period, that's really what we're here to do. But I definitely want to thank each and every single one of you again, as well as President Robottom. And if there's anything in any other platform, anything that I can utilize, please contact me and don't hesitate to call.
Okay, any other comments from Ms. Remedy?
Just one question. Film Industry 101, is there a deadline for this?
No, ma'am, there isn't a deadline. We are actually beginning the class. Forgive me, I don't have my calendar, but we're going to begin in the middle of May. So really, any interested individual, they would just have to visit our new center behind the donut hole, and what they would need is their ID, Social Security card, and birth certificate. Those are the required documents that we need to deem them eligible or not. They can bring that in, just let the staff members know that they're there to see if they're eligible for a training program, and it's a short process. Pretty much, we can literally, let somebody know if they're eligible in a day or so.
I think I got a student for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Wright.
Thank you. This is all great information. Just a quick question. Can we get an electronic copy of this?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So we can have it distributed also.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Snyder. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Robottom.
Just a reminder, and thank you so much for coming. You are one of our best kept secrets. Very committed. The program that he referenced with Oshner was a huge success. Yeah. And it's something we definitely want to continue. Those of us who attended the opening of the Behavioral Health Center this morning, I actually spoke with the CEO who's looking for mental health techs. and is looking to partner and train employees. Obviously, they're not up to full staff, but those are the types of jobs that they need to fill, and they're looking to partner either with Workforce Commission and the community college to develop a training program, just as they did for the medical assistant, to provide the type of training that the workers would need to be employed again at the River Place facility here right in St. John. So again, very appreciative. We had the discussion earlier, and I know Tommy will follow up on that.
Okay, Mr. Snyder.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Scott, for coming
Thank
over.
you.
And I was impressed when I read the article in the Observatory on what you had to say, and I said, this we got to be something we can do with this, you know. And we've been hearing from the Votech school, been hearing from the high school, hearing from almost many avenues that we just don't get enough people in our training classes. And when I read this article, I said, this is an opportunity, and everybody done heard about workforce, you know. And it is behind the donut hole. I found it. It's a sweet effort. You don't have to walk up no stairs or anything, you know. And but this training program you were saying, you said that was 30 spots.
It's a max of 30 spots. Thus far, we have 16, 17 with the individual Ms. Ramadan Mason Darnover. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you got some areas for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's I guess that's why Mr. Wright asked for a copy of it, because they got the training.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll actually submit all of the documents on all of the training opportunities electronically to you all. Because absolutely will. Because it's an array, and I'll send you all of them. And just real quick, we also have a second cohort with Oxnard at this point. We have a pharmacy technician program, 160 hours online, and then a 160-hour externship at an actual Oxnard medical facility. We really have a great relationship with Oxnard, and they're very active in the community. And I mean, everywhere you turn, you see an Oxnard. So that's a great relationship for us to have, but it's also a great opportunity that we have for the residents. And basically, all I'm doing is just asking for assistance and getting the word out, because I don't know, I probably shouldn't say this, but I just shoot for it anyway. I'm born and raised here. I am originally from St. Charles Parish, St. Rose, graduate of Destrehan. However, I hate that with all the new companies and the new expansions that we have coming to the River Parish, on any given day, you go into the parking lot, it's all out-of-state license plate. You know, I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but I do believe that at least since these companies are coming into our area, if you will, I think that our residents should definitely have, top choice or being the top priority of those particular positions. But then the onus of preparation falls on you and I to ensure that our residents are competent and can fulfill the expectations, not only fulfill but exceed the expectations of those employees when they come to the area. So that's something that I am very passionate about, and something that, again, I just thank each and every single one of you, and any assistance that you can provide will be greatly appreciated.
And I just like to, anyone who's watching this broadcast now or watching it during the week, this is the word we got to get out. This is almost like, teaching your kids, look, say your prayers at night before you go to bed and ask God to guide you the next day. This is the word we need to get out. Things like this happening, and that unemployment number that we have in our parish, we can actually get that to go down. And our kids get out of school, and many of them not going to college, and this is a great opportunity for them to get some training, and at least an opportunity, and it's it's right here in the parish, and we got a young man there that's, that's directing that facility over there, and just a matter of going, knock on his door over there and walk in, and you got a lot of people there to help you. Yeah. So look, thanks again for coming. I sure appreciate it. Good information.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda is Ms. Natalie Bottom, proclamation May 7, 12, 2018 as National Economic Development Week.
Yes, we actually have some members of the Economic Development Committee who've been here. I apologize for you having to wait, but please come up so you can accept the proclamation. We also have our chairperson here representing the board, Ms. Michelle Jenkins. No, I just want to introduce you. Just let her know who you are.
Hello, Michelle Jenkins, EDC Chairman.
How you doing? I'm Evan Stein. I'm the co-chair for the Economic Development Committee.
Yeah, I'm Robert Taylor. I'm the Economic Development member.
She's always at meetings, so you call her honorary member.
Honorary member.
Honorary member.
For those of you who attend all of our events, you know you see these individuals. Not only are they participating in the committee meetings, but they're out in the community attending and meeting our business owners, supporting us in our ribbon cuttings and openings. So again, we want to thank all of you. And of course, Jerry, our Economic Development Director, is behind us. Again, thanks for y'all patience and waiting. I'll read through the proclamation. It's for Economic Development Week, which is May the 7th through the 12th. There's also an array of activities that we'll be hosting in support of this. And the proclamation reads, whereas the year 2018 is the 92nd anniversary of the International Economic Development Council, and whereas the International Development Council is the largest professional economic development organization dedicated to serving economic developers, and whereas the International Economic Development Council provides leadership and excellence in economic development for communities, members, and partners through conferences, training courses, advisory services, and research, in-depth publications, public policy advocacy, and initiatives such as the Accredited Economic Development Organization Program and the Certified Economic Developer Designation. And whereas economic developers promote economic well-being and quality of life for their communities by creating, retaining, and expanding jobs that facilitate growth, enhance wealth, and provide a stable tax base. And whereas economic developers stimulate and incubate entrepreneurism in order to help establish the next generation of new businesses, which is the hallmark of the American economy. And whereas economic developers are engaged in a wide variety of settings, including rural and urban, local, state, provincial, and federal governments, public-private partnerships, chamber of commerce, universities, and a variety of other institutions. And whereas economic developers attract and retain high-quality jobs, develop vibrant communities, and improve the quality of life in the regions. Now, therefore, I, Natalie Rowbottom, Parish President, in conjunction with St. John the Baptist Parish Council members, do hereby proclaim the week of May 7th through May 12th, 2018, as Economic Development Week in St. John the Baptist Parish.
Thank you so much.
Did you see how she looked at you?
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, you want to say something?
I just want to say thank you all for recognizing Economic Development Week, May the 7th through the 12th, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming month for Economic Development Week.
Well, good. Everybody got anything you want to ask to economic development? I'm just getting back in practice here. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Y'all.
Have a good night.
Hold on. First off, I just want to thank President Rowbottom for putting us on the agenda, and I want to thank you guys for coming out and sticking through this. Also want to make sure we recognize economic development all year and keep the tax dollars flowing. We need them. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next on the agenda, we was asked to move up the executive session for 2 items. The first item that we're going to be discussing is the Board of Commission of Sedgwick County, Kansas versus American Source Virgin Drug Corporation, and the other one is Ohio versus McKesson Corporation, February 26, 2018. Those are the 2 items we will be discussing in the executive session.
Okay, I need a motion to go into executive session.
A motion by Mr. Malik, second by Ms. Remedy. Use your light.
That carries 8 in favor with 2 7 in favor with 2 absent.
7 in favor with 2 absent. As a result of executive section, no action was taken at this time. Okay, next on the agenda is consent agenda item. Approval of minutes from April 10th, 2018 regular meeting. Permit approval, Rise and Star Baptist Church of LaPlace, Fun Walk Run, Saturday, May 12th, 2018 at 8 a.m. Civil Service Board appointment of Grayling Borough, member, elect employees, representative. Next, Councilman Wright, reappointment of Mr. Jamie LeBranch to the Coastal Zone Management Advisory Committee. Okay. Motion by Ms. Remedy, second by Mr. Mallett. Okay. Any comments? Usually, like, open to the public. Public went home for the night.
We should all go home for the night.
Okay.
That carries 7 in favor with 2 absent.
That carries 7 in favor with 2. I'm just making sure y'all paying attention. Public hearing on ordinance. There are none. Committee report.
Mr. Larry.
Mr. Sarabro.
Motion. Approve the minutes for the Finance Committee.
Okay, motion by Mr. Sarabro, second by Mr. Wright. Any comments? Okay, use your lights.
That carries 7 in favor with 2 absent.
Okay, old business, new business, Hugh Martin, resolution 18-07, a resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the mosquito abatement district of the parish of St. John the Baptist, State of Louisiana, to authorize the renewal of a special tax therein, making application to the State Board Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Yes, neither Mr. Hugh or Jason were able to make it tonight due to conflicts. However, this is a current tax and it's set to expire at the end of 2018. The proposition renews at the same level, and it's for an additional 10 years, and we recommend approval.
Okay, you heard from administration. Entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Snyder, second by Ms. Remedy. Okay, any questions or anything? Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 7 in favor with 2 absent.
7 in favor and 2 absent. Okay, next is Ms. Natalie Roboto, resolution R18-08, a resolution for the transfer of LA 643 to St. John the Baptist Parish to apply a portion of the road transfer credit to the parish, commitment to the state project H011845, St. John East Bank, Mississippi River Trail, Phase 4.
Yes, this resolution amends the original agreement authorizing the transfer of a portion of LA 643 to the parish in exchange for road transfer credits, and actually there was a cash amount as well. This amendment allows for a portion of the credits to be applied to the parish's match for the East Bank Mississippi River Trail Phase 4. Some of the other dollars were going to go to the Streetscape program. There's also plans to use some of the cash for West Bank projects. So there are a number of projects, and this one wasn't actually specifically laid out in the agreement, so they asked that we amend it. This project is fully designed. It's been approved by DOT after however many years we've been in design, because they take that long. However, working with RPC, who's putting up a large portion of the dollars, this would go toward the parish's match, which we had budgeted some dollars, but this would allow us to start the project and bid it out. So we ask for your approval.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Remedy? Oh, Mrs. Robert.
No, he's...
Okay. Okay, Ms.
And for informational purposes, this is the last phase. Phase 4 would start at West 10th, where we finished last time, and it would go to the St. James Parish line. That was the one where we had the meetings and looked at industry and what those requirements would be, and we would be one of the first to actually have one side of the river completely completed.
Okay, motion by Ms. Remedy and second by Mr. Saraparu. Any further questions? Use your lights, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Where's 643?
Pleasure Bend.
643?
That was the road
Pleasure
transfer that was approved in Pleasure Bend. The road, St. James took a portion of it. St. John took a portion of it. They agreed to provide cash towards some projects as well as the the road credits of about $1.4 million toward typically projects on state roadways or on state projects. And this qualified as one because it's on the levy of the state.
We approving the use of those funds for the
Some
transfer?
of them, just a portion of them.
We're not. We've approved the transfer already.
Yes.
We did that. How long ago?
Yeah, it was a few meetings ago, and you specified some of the use. We got approval for some of the cash, and this one was one that we had talked about, but it wasn't written into the document. So we're asking to amend the document to include this project as well.
But tell me this. It's my first time hearing about what we're going to use the cash for. Could you tell me why this is our first time hearing about this? It's my first time. Isn't
No,
it?
it's not actually.
Well,
Mr.
it's my first
Saraparu
time.
and them actually at a
Well,
meeting.
there we go. Now
No. This was at a public meeting. Ms. Schoen actually had y'all to table this item because
I
they
remember
wanted.
that. I remember that distinctly, and I was against this then,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be against it today.
Okay.
Because here again, where are we using the money at? Now, I was against it before because I know we have to take care of the street.
Mm-hmm.
$1 million to do that whole street. That's what I got from I think I was by engineering that what it would cost to do that street, and that's why I was against it then. Now we take the money from there. We didn't declare it already. That's my first time hearing about it. I got some streets I can use that money for. You
No,
understand?
actually, this was publicly discussed.
Well,
The council members, it was, they actually objected until they met with their constituents, and we were able to work with DOT to do some additional things outside of what they typically did, and they agreed for the transfer. This was an item that was discussed in addition to utilizing the cash on some of the West Bank projects, including a roadway in Pleasure Bend. Again, out of those dollars, we definitely.
It might have came up, Ms. Marissa. It might have it may have come up in just that we can use other money from this road, but I don't remember no discussions as far as what we gonna use the money for council. Do you have any idea?
It was actually in the document y'all approved. It was written.
Now see, there you go again. We approved. I didn't approve it.
Okay. Well, whoever voted on it, it passed, and the actual use of what we were getting, what we were going to use it for, had to be in the resolution that was submitted to us by DOT. So you may have voted against it, but the majority of the council supported it.
Okay, Mr. Hold on. All right, Mr. Saraparu.
Okay, well, let me just say, Mr. Snyder, I understand why you said you were against it the first time, and I was against it very much the first time. But from my understanding that the money was going to be able to be used anywhere in St. John Parish that we see needed. I understand there are a number of roads that might be coming across the same way to take funds to put in your district or wherever it's needed. And I was very cautious about going that route. But after going to Pleasure Bend and looking at what Pleasure Bend's got, and the amount of money been spent in Pleasure Bend on other federal levels with rock jetties and water well and all that, and they got a road in real good shape that's going to be good for the next 12 to 15 years. There are no heavy trucks going back in that area. And like Ms. Robottom just said, we the first one finish complete bike path. St. Charles Parish started probably 10 years ago. They stopped in Hornsville. They didn't come to Kelowna yet. They don't think Kelowna deserves a walk path, I guess. But that's the mindset that I had for supporting a road swap. I mean, we all St. John Parish. I mean, we all need roads to be fixed at some point. But here it's a recreational activity, and I'm not going to not support anything for recreation as much as we want to make recreation a priority in our communities.
How much is our?
Hold on, Mr. Snyder.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm finished.
Okay.
Don't throw me out.
No, not today, Mr. Snyder.
Our credit. How much is our credit?
The total credit is 1.4, and I think there's 500,000 in cash. 3. $300,000 in cash. That's outside of the
And we
credit.
can use our credit or the cash
Not
for that walk on the levee over there.
We're actually attempting to use the credits for the walking path because it is
How much is that?
a state project. The whole project is in excess of $3 million.
I'm talking about our credit toward that.
We actually budgeted some money. The total match is the total match is $660. We had budgeted a portion of that. $500,000 would go toward the match for the bike path. The $500 or $300 in cash can be done outside of state projects. That was the caveat that we got for the transfer, was those dollars. We wanted to do a road in Pleasure Bend. Well, it's not a state road, and they don't typically do those. We wanted to do something else on the West Bank that may not have fit into a state project, and they actually provided the additional money and the leeway to be able to use it for other projects.
We're not gonna buy a lift truck with that, are we?
No, sir.
I mean bucket truck. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay, any more comments? Okay, use your lights, please.
That carries 6 in favor with 2 absent and 1 against.
6 in favor and 2 absent and 1 against. Ms. Remedy, I think you said you wanted to table.
Yes, I put on a resolution concerning the railroads with cleaning coverage, but I apologize to Jackie. I rushed her to put it on the agenda, but I wanted to remove it from the agenda and put it back on next week because I want to rewrite it a little further.
Okay, we're going to remove that item. Okay, departmental and engineering reports. First we have Mr. Larry Sarapru. That's a table item. You want to carry it over, or you want to carry it over? Okay, Mr. Malik, we're going to table that item. I'm going to table mine too. Next on the agenda is Mr. Larry. Oh, we need to vote the table. Okay, let's go.
Can somebody motion?
Okay, a motion on my behalf by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Becknell. Okay, use your lights, please.
Huh?
You go
Table.
for that, right?
For which one? The table?
Table his item.
Table my item.
That passes 7 in favor with 2 absent.
7 in favor with 2 absent. Next on the agenda is Mr. Larry Snyder. Update on the financing of tap water project in Water District 1 and 3.
Yeah, that's we discussed that already. If you got something to say on it, fine, but it's just, I think it's up to us now what we want to do with that.
Okay, we good then? Okay, we're moving right along then. Next on the agenda is Ms. Jacqueline Hotel. She's not here, so we just gonna move over. We're just gonna leave it on that for until she's here to discuss it. Next on the agenda is Mr. Lennox Madare. We're gonna table that item too.
Oh, Lord, okay, good.
Okay, motion by
Mr. Wright.
Mr. Wright. Need a second. Second by Mr. Sarabaru. Okay, use your light, please.
That carries 7 in favor with 2 absent.
7 in favor with 2 absent. Mr. Marvin Pearl, I think he said something
Well, you
about
got Mr. Snyder, you missed him.
Oh, Mr. Snyder, I'm sorry. Larry Snyder, update on raising the electrical boxes at Rudolph.
Well, since we got a box truck coming, we can raise them electrical meters back there now. we can raise the electrical panel back there. Okay, look, I'm satisfied with this. I understand that we're waiting on FEMA right now.
Okay.
We don't have the money.
And Mr. Pearl informed me through the secretary that you want to carry that item over. He had to be at work. Okay. We already did executive session. Okay.
Introduction of ordinance.
Introduction of ordinance. Go ahead and knock that out. No, you do it.
Ordinance 1810, an ordinance of naming the West Bank Recreational Park the Juan Anthony Joseph Park.
Okay, thank you. We already had executive session, so now is presidential report.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank those of you who had the opportunity to join us in Gretna and join the governor and his representatives of the Office of Community Development as they announced funding for 10 resiliency projects, which include St. John Parish. Through LA Safe and OCD, funding will be allocated toward the Airline Highway Main Street Complete Streets project, which focuses on beautification, stormwater management, and the overall sustainability of our community. We're also very excited and ready to work with OCD and RPC, which is Regional Planning Commission, who are large proponents for this, on moving this project, as there's a 4-year timeline for completion of any project funded through LAC. In addition to OCD staff, I'd like to thank the Planning and Zoning Director, Alex Carter, and her team, CAO Laverne Toombs Communications, the Center for Planning Excellence, the RPC, and all of you who attended meetings throughout the community that actually gathered input from our residents in moving this project forward. As more information becomes available, we'll put that out, but you can also go to lasafe.la.gov for more information. On Sunday, I had the honor of speaking to a national planning audience at the 2018 National Planning Conference in New Orleans. I was actually joined by John Lane, St. Bernard's Executive Director of Coastal Operations. The session was led by Alex and Evelyn, and we discussed future development, natural environment issues, and the challenge of coastal land loss in the session, which was titled Leadership Along a Disappearing Coast. The session was well attended. We provided a different perspective for people from around the country, emphasizing the importance of monitoring the rising sea levels and erosion and increased flood risk to our area, and some of the things we can do as a state and with a comprehensive plan to deal with that. Our team from Planning and Zoning also provided a poster session. It was titled Promoting Inclusiveness and Prevention Planning. The poster detailed the timeline for establishing a historic preservation committee, developing the work plan and revitalization strategy, approval of the 4 historic districts, and designation of St. John as a certified local government. They did a great job. It was very well received. Lots of people stopped to ask questions about the process because many were not familiar with it. I think it was a great opportunity to showcase St. John, and they made us all proud. They did an excellent job. And as I said, they're still there. The conference actually ends on Wednesday. As referenced earlier, we did celebrate today the opening of River Place Behavioral Health Center in Laplace through a joint venture. Ochsner partnered with Acadia Healthcare to repurpose the old River Parish's hospital building to provide critical, needed mental health care services to residents across our region. The investment of $18 million will go to 82 beds, and the facility, as all of you noted, was state of the art. And again, the plan is to create up to 150 jobs. The opening of River Place Behavioral Health not only addresses the dire need for mental health services, but it also creates job opportunities. The total investment from Ochsner was about $30 million. That's a combination of the Behavioral Health Center and the medical complex, and again, providing jobs and opportunity for our residents. We want to thank all of you, the individuals, the groups, the churches, the organizations who participated in the spring clean sweep on Saturday. Over 100 volunteers swept the parish and picked up loads of garbage and debris. St. John is again partnering with the 40th Judicial District Children and Youth Services Planning Board and Prevention Committee to host its annual fishing camp. The event is Saturday, May 19th from 8 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. at the Bonnie Carey Spillway. It's free to youth ages 8 to 15. To register, volunteer, or donate, please contact Burnell Charles. His number is 504-570-4885. On behalf of the Voodoo Boat Club, we'd like to invite everyone to the Voodoo Boat Club Nationals to be held in Reserve near the airport next week, May 3rd through May 6th. The club will be celebrating its 10th anniversary as the most prestigious boating competition in the world. Held each year in our parish, the sport brings boaters and spectators from across the country and the world. This year, more than 20 states and 4 countries will be participating in the event, which is open and free to the public. For viewing, there's a large covered area and a food vendor who will be on site all day offering a full menu. Please help us in supporting this wonderful venture and one that brings economic diversity to our parish. Just a reminder, the construction on Belterre Boulevard is almost complete. But please obey the signs for safety purposes. There's still some work being done closer to the ramps, and there's still cones and other barricades that are still there. So we ask that you proceed with caution. The ramp will be closed from 8 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. tonight, tomorrow night, and Thursday night. Signs will be placed directing motorists to exit at Highway 51 as they continue to work on the ramp. We're anticipating about another 4 to 6 weeks because after they finish elevating the ramp, they have to restore the lighting that they had to take down to complete the road work. And so, again, the project looks like it's coming to an end. It looks like it's a great project. They've been striping. They've been attempting to finish. And we're just asking for a little more patience as we finish up this project and improve that entire corridor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bynum. Mr. Sarapu? No comment. Mr. Begnell?
No comment.
Ms. Remedy?
Same here, no comment.
Mr. Snyder?
I'd just like to congratulate our planning and zoning department for that representation. I think there was a national conference they went to, and they had a beautiful poster on it. I think you saw the poster. It's about 4 feet wide or 5 feet wide, and a lot on it. Wasn't too busy, and it said something. So y'all did a good job, Ms. Roboto.
Okay. Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. I'll second that.
Okay. Mr. Mallett?
No comment.
Okay. Okay. Just a couple of comments. First, I want to give my condolences to the Melvin Finroy family for the loss of their mother a few days ago. Also, I want to congratulate West St. John boys and girls softball and baseball team. The girls made the playoff for the first time in a very long time. The boys in the playoff again. They have a game tomorrow at 4 o'clock at West St. John. The first time we'll be hosting the playoff game in quite a while. And they play Vaudeville tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Okay. No further comments. I'm taking a motion for adjournment. Motion by Mr. Wright. Mr. Mallett, second by Mr. Wright. Use your light. That pass.
8 in favor, 2 absent.